This smells like blueberries.
We will be taking individual photos as well as group photos while we go through awards. So once you get your award, please hang tight till somebody tells you to leave the area. We're going to start with our U15 girls from this morning. Finishing in third place with a score of 893, Rylan Lessinger.
You're not a PB, you're a host. Never mind. Oh, I saw it back here. I was only
Finishing in second place for the U15 girls this morning with a score of 954, Sophia DeLucia. And your first place winner from this morning's round on the short pattern for the U15 girls, Skylar Petz with a nice 957.
Yeah. I'll make it good.
I'm just gonna do a skip. I got
I'll wall up the parent. Like, don't do me and have a wall of parents do it on your hands. That was a hazard. I might
Nice job this morning, ladies. Moving on to our U18 girls this morning. U18 girls this morning for the live stream. Finishing in third place with a score of 950, Brooklyn Heath. Your second place finisher for the U18 girls this morning with a 987, Ashlyn Tevis. And in first place this morning with a very nice 1050, Gianna Brandolino. Very nice job this morning, ladies.
Can we get a picture real quick? Thank you. Thank you.
Moving on to the U15 boys in third place with a score of 992, Sevi Vetter.
Take off your honey.
So does not look at.
In second place with a score of 1009, Anthony Swanson.
piano player.
Too bad, Josh.
I'm a professional gutterball.
And in first place for the U15 boys this morning with a score of 1092, Rush Steen.
Hey. Oh, really? I didn't know brush. Well, no, duh. No wonder. That's cool. I can't do that.
Congratulations, gentlemen. Last but not least, in our U18 boys division this morning, finishing in third place with a score of 1040, Trey Hendricksmeyer. Finishing in second place with a score of 1066 this morning, Josh Sachs. In first place for the U18 boys on the short this morning with a score of 1074, Carson Reed. Excellent bowling this morning, gentlemen. Congratulations. Just a few housekeeping items before we get started with this afternoon's practice. Just a reminder, we are here tomorrow at Cadillac at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. That is a change from last year. We are here at 8 o'clock tomorrow. Announcements and awards at 8 o'clock, practice roughly 8:15, bowling at 8:30. We will be through the center selling raffle tickets. Again, those raffle tickets are good until tomorrow after qualifying is when we'll do the drawing. Silent auction does end after this block, so if you want to place a bid on one of the silent auction items, please do so before the end of the block.
Thinnest metal.
Just a reminder to hit up our sponsors if you do go out to eat this evening. Kingpin Social. If everybody remembers, we sent out some information. We're going to have a kind of an event at Kingpin Social over at Maple tonight. They will have some specials for food. There's menus kind of posted throughout the center, so they have some specials that they are offering for us tonight. If you haven't been to the Kingpin Social, there's pinball, there's bags, there's sand volleyball, there's fire pits, all kinds of cool stuff to do over there. The other place on Ridgeway Avenue is another good option. Andy Belo was kind enough to help us out with coupons on pizza, also helped out with some money for our prize fund, so please make sure you patronize them. Texas Roadhouse also provided us some things here, so make sure, like I say, when we go to these places, tell them why we're here, tell them why you came, and appreciate them, tell them thank you for supporting us. Everything that they give to us, we try to give them back with people visiting. We are going on our long pattern this afternoon. The skip pattern is going to be the same. It will be skipping to the right, bowling on the third pair. Again, make sure you're courteous to the bowlers in front of you. Don't jump into their areas. I know we didn't really have issues with it this morning, but we do have some pairs of 5. So be conscious of them in front of you, making sure that if somebody's done, don't go running into their area right away. One last housekeeping item that I forgot this morning. Mr. Williams in our live stream booth is running a fundraiser for taffy apples, as he calls them. They're caramel apples to me, but they are doing a fundraiser, so you can see him over there looking for some caramel apples to take home with you. It's a fundraiser for them. We'll give you just a couple of minutes. Everybody get to their starting pairs, and we'll get practice turned on here in just a minute or two once everybody gets situated.
Okay for me to do it. It's not okay for you to do it.
How are you losing to Ben and I? You could have Ben, I'm barely losing to
We need to kick this guy off. We gotta discuss this.
I would really be like the
Only freshman in college in here. You just lucky your birthday fell late. Juniors and seniors in high school are saucy.
age doesn't matter.
I thought it was. Hey,
For real.
And I got the triple
he's fine. He says it is. It's not okay if you say it.
Tuesday.
Whoa. Whoa. Hey, it's 2:50. Imagine McConnell better than us bowling. Right. I have that on my list.
I curl my
Wait, no, I brought up.
just like
She's deep down.
Yeah, I wish. Hey, say that in front of the poker coaches, see what happens. Brandon,
You're up. We make some out of pocket.
that was a good joke, but you're gone. Get out of here.
That was a good one. Perfect 10 out of 10. But legally, I have that.
And you're kicked out of college. Bye. Have a good ride. No refund. Liberals should do so.
It's liberal arts. It's not. Oh, never mind. Then it's okay.
It's not labeled a liberal school. It's just not. Oh, it's a liberal arts.
The liberals like it's a liberal arts school, but it's not labeled. Just school that becomes bad.
wait, oh my gosh.
That's what I'm saying, man. It's that o'clock. 2 o'clock. Alright, it's 2:15.
If we are
Lemon and someone died. Really bad.
they're alive. No, I'm over there. That's a different side.
You're beating me by 30 minutes.
All right, everybody, it is 2:15, so we will get started with your 15 minutes of practice on the long pattern. Surface adjustments are allowed until the conclusion of practice. Turnovers. And don't forget about the Kingpin social events this evening if you choose to come. So, other than that, good luck, good scores, enjoy the 5 games.
Talking about you, all the strikes you're about to throw.
think I figured that out. I think we're cooking now. Now we're cooking with oil, as I like to say. Hello, Miss Scott Ford. She is watching and rooting on Rush from Owasso, Oklahoma. Rush is just next door, and he's on 29 and 30. And Rush, well, just left the bucket, unfortunately, in frame 2 on 29 and 30. I will take a look at that. At those pairs here in a moment. Rush actually had a very, very good start to the tournament. In U15 boys, he was the leader after the first block on short. He went plus 92. Plus 92, actually, man. Plus 92 is a lot in comparison. Anthony Swanson was second at plus 9. Sebi Vetter was third at minus 8. In U15 boys. In U18 boys, Carson Reed went plus 74, followed by Josh Sachs at plus 66, and Trey Henriksmeyer at plus 40. In U15 girls, Skylar Petz, red block at minus 43, Sophia DeLucia at minus 46, Rylan Lessinger was third at minus 107, and in U18 girls, Gianna Brandolino, very nice block of plus 50. She was followed by Ashlyn Tevis at minus 13 and Brooklyn Hybe at minus 50. Miss Charlotte is in the house watching Anthony as he starts with the front three. Dad is just to my left. Miss Swanson, Mrs. Swanson, as you would imagine. Anthony, last year's U15 boys champion. Trying to repeat. Not the easiest thing to do, but he's off to a good start by both his block this morning on the short pattern and so far through 3 frames here on the long pattern, which typically speaking, very general, but most high rev players, and Andy Belo and I were talking about this morning, most high rev players typically enjoy bowling on a longer condition. So I would anticipate some scores to be a little bit higher. Players like an Anthony Swanson, a Landon Jordan, Griffin, even Josh Sachs, for example. I've watched his game a little bit these last few months. Might be on to something here. Emily Kringle. That's a good way to attack it, though. A little bit different. She's got a lot of surface on what looked to be maybe a gym. And playing them from the outside. Again, if you are just joining us, the format of the tournament, 15 total games of qualifying broken down into 5-game blocks on 3 different lane conditions. So this morning, again, short. Now we bowl on long, so players will have bowled 10 games today after we're done for the evening. We will come back tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. Central, 9 a.m. Eastern. We'll bowl 5 games on the medium pattern. And then we'll cut to the Stepladder finals. Here is Anthony. .316 there for Anthony Swanson. As Vicky Andrews able to get a little carry here early. She's got the left lane down so far. She's 3 for 3 on the left lane. Tyler Paulus, Dylan Pollard. A couple of players over on 23 and 24. We'll see Tyler here coming up in just a moment. He's actually now on the approach. That's a good break. Just gave it a boom as well. Oh, nice shot, excuse me, from Ashton, and that's 4 in a row. After the tough start for Ashton too, he has rebounded extremely well. Folks, the good nature of this event, which is great, is that there are a lot of individuals who are either coaches to a degree, maybe they bowl on respective professional tours, maybe they are coaches all in one, maybe they shoot a lot of high scores, all of the above. Same can be said for our next guest, one of the coaches on staff for a local university just down the street, which is Wartburg College in Waverly, Iowa, as we welcome in Brandon Runk to Bowlstream TV. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me on.
I appreciate you. First thing I want to mention is there are 3 colleges represented at this event. One of them, of course, being Wartburg. What has that experience been like for you so far, both you and Alexis, and we'll talk to her tomorrow, but you know, being a collegiate coach and kind of welcoming this world into you know, kind of what you guys do now on a regular basis?
I mean, the experience is definitely different. I mean, having coached personally, like, just back at home when we were in Pennsylvania, it's not totally different, but just the different, like, all the background stuff, it's new, but all in all, like, just being able to coach the kids, just see them grow as athletes and people mostly, it's a rewarding thing to do, and we've only been able to coach for 2 weeks. But just in that short time, just being able to connect with the kids, it's a fun time. It's a fun time.
Did you ever anticipate coaching collegiately? Like, was it like a goal maybe somewhere down the road? Certainly not this early.
Yeah, definitely not this early. Like, it was something Alexis and I have always talked about. We've always wanted to do it. And an opportunity presented itself, and we talked, and I was just like, let's just go for it, kind of dive right in type deal, and they hired us rather quick, and here we are.
As you look out now on the kind of on this event, and you know, we already have 5 games. Now we bowl in a long pattern. For you as a coach, you know, what are you looking for? You know, you don't have to give away any secrets, but what are you looking for kind of in a prospective student athlete?
I mean, honestly, it's what I personally look for. It's nothing to really do with their physical game. I personally look more at as to how they handle themselves. Like, when transition hits, when frustrations get the better of us, how do they handle it? Do they show their frustrations a little bit more than they should, or are they rather calm and just try to think through it? That's the big thing that I look for. Obviously, like, you want a good foundation in a game, something easy to work with, but for the most part, I look at how they handle themselves off, like when they're not on the approach.
Right.
So
That's one thing that,
how coachable are they?
yes, no athlete can escape. I feel every coach I've ever talked to is less about what they do or can do with the bowling ball, and more about the reaction or non-reaction,
Yeah.
if you will, to
Because I mean,
how things go.
let's be honest, we all get frustrated.
Absolutely.
Bowling is one of those sports, but no, there are ways to handle it, ways to not. So that is very important, especially in a team environment.
You said 2 weeks.
Yeah. So we got hired on in July, and well, a little bit before July. We weren't able to get out here until July. I think the first week in July. I already forget the date we got out here, but it was short work we had to do to get settled in and then kind of get associated with the team. And we started practices 2 weeks ago, so it's been foot on the gas since we got out here.
Yeah, that's a very, very quick transition. Obviously,
Yeah.
you had to move. And
Yeah,
pack
yeah,
and-
that was a stressful time. Get from Pennsylvania to Iowa, 13 hours away, and have to do it in X amount of time.
Swanson now with 5 out of 6. And Rushdie now with 4 in a row, now over on 29 and 30. Next time Rush is up, we'll take a peek over there. I'm sure to a degree you're somewhat familiar with some of the local players now that you've been here for a little bit.
Yep.
But when you look at this field, and I don't even know if you had a chance to get to junior gold, if that was on the radar based on the timing of being hired, but when you look at just youth bowling as a whole, like just how talented and like the depth of field typically is always very large
Yes.
and grand. What do you see when you watch youth bowling today?
That's a really good question. No, I mean, just looking around, like a lot of the kids, I mean, they handle themselves really well. Like a lot of the, I'll just put it this way: I wish I threw it as good as some of these kids when I was their age. Like just how quickly they grasp things, how smart they are in terms of like reading a lane, and it's refreshing to see. It is very refreshing to see. It's always nice to see the kids just be able to kind of work through what they're bowling on. Like I was talking to I already forget his name, Trey. He led. Yes, just talking with him and just hearing him kind of talk through like moves, transitions. I'm like, I didn't know any of that when I was their age. I just threw the ball down the lane. If it didn't strike, oh, well, all right, got to try something different. It was a lot more simple thinking, but, I mean, the game has evolved a lot just in a short amount of time, so you got to pay attention to all those variables.
Nice pick up there by Karsten Guess. Griffin just to our right. So another good start there for Griff. In the booth with Brandon Runk. Are you you're the assistant,
Yes.
technically, right?
Yep.
I wanna make sure I give the proper credit to Alexis.
Yeah, no, she's the head coach. I'm the assistant. I have a full-time job with Bowler X, so I'm able to balance both. So she's the face of it, basically.
May I ask what you do at Bowler X?
I mean, I just work customer service.
Okay.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm able to do that remote. So
Nice. That helps with the move.
Oh yeah,
that was
didn't have to take much time off for that one. It was very fortunate.
Sorry, I was
Nope.
detailing the transaction. I am, well, I have only sold a couple, but the wonderful Jordan family and the Brandolino family, they've all combined to help me sell my son's taffy apples for school. So that's, yes. So if you want to,
awesome.
if you want
Yeah.
a pack of
How
3
much?
at $4. I don't know if they have any more any without nuts, or we do. We have both. So
That's
it's up to
fine.
you.
Had
It's just
either.
up to you, man. You tell me what you want. We have peanuts. We have without.
We'll go without.
Okay.
We'll go without. Oh, yes.
There you go. Transaction. I needed that on camera. Shameless plug. Super random. I was talking with Anthony's dad, and the Affy Tapple factory, I believe, is in the Chicagoland area, which is where we're both from. And so there was a TV story about it, and there was a story in the newspaper about it. And I was like, man, think 75 years is a long time. And they went in depth on like how they make them and the whole factory, and it was a nice thing. I'm like, man, maybe we get some local, get some sponsorship.
Yeah.
Selling these apples have made me think differently now. This long pattern, folks, it's obviously different than the short pattern, and that's an obvious one. But if you watched any of today, you'll notice it's longer. In some instances, the shorter pattern kind of played, I think, a little longer, and it seemed like it depended on maybe you were in the bowling center as well.
Yeah, definitely. One thing I saw when I was following one of the kids that we have bowling, the higher end was a lot tighter compared to the lower end. It was at least, he played them at least 3 or 4 different from the ends of the house. They played interestingly, I guess is the best way to put it. It didn't play like your typical 35-foot pattern, that's for sure.
We get you back to the finish of Anthony's game, but Rush is on a nice run here as well. He's got 5 in a row. Want to check out
He's going to be very good.
his 8th frame shot. That was my fault.
A little wide. Black clouded it.
Yep. Want to make sure Ms. Scott Ford was able to see Rush. She's tuned in and take a look. From your vantage point, and you're left-handed. So when you are in a situation where you're coaching, right, and obviously not bowling for yourself, which is what you do on tour, do you have to think the game a little bit differently because you're probably coaching majority right-handers?
Yeah, so the moves are definitely a lot different and a lot quicker. So yeah, I kind of have to turn my lefty brain off, so to speak, and figure out how to make those moves quicker for the kids. I mean, we have our first tournament this coming weekend, so it's still untested, but I'm feeling confident going into it. So it'll definitely be learning while you go. So it'll be fun.
Where which event are you bowling?
It's actually a new conference, Mid-Iowa Bowling Conference.
Okay.
I think there's 10 total teams, 10 or 11, and it's down in Cedar Rapids this coming weekend.
I think Roger was.
Yeah.
Telling me, yes. Okay. You said 10 teams?
I think so. It's 10 or 11. I can't really remember off the top of my head.
That makes sense. I feel Iowa as a state has produced maybe the most newer collegiate programs, I feel like, in the last 5 to 7 years, give or take.
Yeah, no, I agree. It's one of those hidden gems, I guess, of states with bowling. Like, not really a whole lot, which is a lot to bowl for the youth here, which I think Brandon and that group, they're doing a great job with this, kind of getting it out there, getting them out there in some exposure. But there's a lot of great youth bowlers in this state that I'm coming to learn really quickly, and
some of which you would like to.
Oh, absolutely. There's a few kids here that I would love to recruit to our team.
What's Wartburg kind of like to a degree? Like, if you could describe it in some facet, or I'm not going to tell me to give me your pitch, if you will, but what are some of the things that you have learned in your short time about Wartburg that are very nice or cool?
So the biggest thing, and just talking, like, there was a couple bowlers that came up to our booth a little bit earlier. I guess the biggest thing that they're looking for is like student to faculty ratio. And the one thing about Wartburg is it's 13 to 1 in student teacher. So it's very, very family-like. Like, it's easy to get a hold of faculty. It's helps always. There's always someone to help you out if you need anything. So that's probably the biggest factor that I've learned, that when I got here, it's that there's always someone there to help you academically, which is really refreshing as well. They want them to succeed.
That's super important. See a couple of 200 games. Josh Sachs 207. Tyler Paula shot 214.
Gonna have 270 here.
Yeah, Anthony had two strikes away from getting into the 270s. Rush can max at
254. Or no, 244.
Yeah.
There's a lot of bigger scores out here this block to start.
Got that right. I'm gonna ask you this question because my vantage point, I mentioned it earlier on the short, that just short patterns aren't what we used to see all the time, where you could almost anticipate free hook, if you will. And there was a place to play. You tried to get your ball here, and if you did, you had a really good opportunity at strike. Now, most short patterns that I see, you have to think about it a little bit more. There's a bit more strategy to a degree, right? I guess the basis is still the same. You want to find a spot to throw it to a target, but it just seemed like even today, there was more hang near the gutter. There was probably more players playing them straighter through the fronts as opposed to slightly giving it away as the block went on, or the higher rev players maybe moved it a little further left earlier.
Yeah, so just knowing the house characteristics here, and from watching the PWBA event that was here, the gutter does not seem very friendly. I have seen, especially this morning, 35 feet, you would think there'd be free hook. Just not looking at the pattern graph, not looking at anything, you would think there's free hook. But there was, like you said, just a lot more hang. And, it kind of makes sense with the building. It seems very much track dominant, because there's a lot of bowlers that I saw this morning that they were playing a part of the lane that you would think on 35 feet you'd be missing the head pin left. But no, I personally don't think that has anything to do with the pattern shape. I think that's all house characteristics, at least in this instance.
Sure.
One more for 270.
Yeah, Anthony has come out. He was second on short in U15 boys, and more than likely is going to be first to start
I like
the
his
day.
odds. I like his odds.
On the long pattern.
Oh, there we go.
Right at 15 at the arrows, not giving it away down lane.
Straighter's greater.
Trey Henriksmeyer shot 279, he told me.
Game 4,
Yes.
I was able to watch that.
This morning on the short pattern, which I don't know if it was his only 200 game, but he described it like it was his only 200 game.
He talks himself down a little bit. I think he bowled better than he says he did. Now, granted, that was the only game I was able to watch, and it was a good one to watch.
He got to 40 something over. Oh. Well, it happens. 276. Well done from Anthony Swanson. All right, back over to Rush as he finishes out the 10th frame, or begins it, I should say. Double away from an opportunity to get into the 240s. Wow.
There's a lot of power in that game.
The talking to coach team, Rush's dad, Brandon, as you know.
Yep.
The amount of, well, not the, I guess the amount, but to a degree, the amount of growth spurts, however you want to phrase that part, that has then resulted into multiple fit changes and et cetera and so forth for.
We have another transaction going on, I think.
So multiple fit changes, back and forth, and I just could remember, like, you know, just as a teenager, you hit that spurt, right, and then, but I don't remember it like affecting my bowling, and it's been maybe because I wasn't at Rush's level at that point either, so it was just like, but listening to Coach describe all of these things and kind of finally seeing him kind of get some stability again, and the results are definitely showing.
Oh yeah. I mean, not really knowing him for quite a while, but just from like talking with Brandon, because they practice here, and there's we as well, and there was a couple of times we were just talking, and it seems like he's starting to finally grow into his body, and like you said, it is showing very much so. He is going to be good for a long time coming.
Can I hold you for one more game?
Yeah, of course.
I appreciate
We're here
that.
all day. Yeah, you hold me as long as you want to.
Well, I mean, I also don't want to. I mean, I guess you can't technically talk to kids, parents while they're bowling. You could if a parent stops by, but I don't want to hold you from the actual business at hand while you're here, which is to recruit and talk to prospective student athletes and their parents. But I do appreciate you.
Of course,
hanging out.
well. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Folks, I'm curious if you happen to have a question for Coach Brandon Ruck. He bowls on the PBA Tour. He's now an assistant coach at Wartburg. If you have a niece, nephew, grandson, granddaughter who's considering bowling collegiately, maybe you have a question about the process or things to kind of take a look at or keep in mind, feel free to ask those questions in the chat. I'd be happy to alert Brandon to your questions as well. Got a new group here from 23 to 26. Speaking of, well, this worked out even better.
It worked out perfectly.
I saw Tyler Reeves a little bit earlier. I don't know if he had the Wartburg jersey on though. Maybe he did. I just didn't pay attention to it. Is he a current student?
Yes, he is a freshman this year.
How about that? How long has the program been established kind of prior to you guys arriving?
They're relatively new. 2018, 2019, in that time frame, I think, was their first year, and they're a very new program. The school supports them a lot. They funded actually like a training center for us. There was a bowling alley that had unfortunately closed due to COVID.
Oh wow.
And they actually funded to reopen it, and finally got it open, and they're allowing us to use that as our training facility. So thanks to them. But no, they're very committed to making the bowling team as good as they can get them. Unfortunately, we're being D3. It's hard. We can't unfortunately give scholarships, so anywhere that they can help to get recruits to be like, oh, hey, that's pretty neat. They have a training facility, and anything to help. Anything to help. They're very supportive of it.
Tyler Paulus. I'm just going to check it out. Just because it's Tyler and I love his family.
Oh, no.
He did get two.
Oh, man.
So
it's funny because the amount of times I saw that happen in practice, it was
on this pattern?
Yeah, it was very unusual. I don't think I've ever seen people get two as often as this. Does he make it?
We're rooting for Tyler now. He's making sure it's not going right.
Oh,
I can't blame him. It's okay, Tyler. It's just frame one.
there's a frame to do
You
it.
still shoot 276.
That would be an interesting 276. 2-4 sheet.
There's Easton Taylor.
He's got a very good game, too. There's a lot of good youth bowlers in this area. Wow.
This group actually with Tyler, Easton Taylor, Savannah Portillo, Nick Sachs, Maya Santalise. Many of these players bowl on the Elite Youth Tour. That's a if you ever get a chance from a recruiting perspective. Get to the Chicagoland area whenever time allows. Many of these players bowl on that tour. That's why, which is kind of how I know a good majority of those in the field. And then you get a chance to see some other players from within the Chicagoland area. Obviously not too far away from Wartburg in that sense. So always think about the drive
Hard way.
early on from Chicago to St. Louis, which is 4.5, but just in a different direction.
Yes.
Also 4.5 hours to get here.
Yeah, that's another unfortunate thing. Like, not even just youth, like just for like our competitive bowling. Like, I think outside of Maple and Cadillac, the closest thing to bowl is 2.5 hours away, or an hour and a half. Like, there's unfortunately nothing really close for us. Downfall of a big state.
Yeah. I'm going to throw the lane pattern on the screen. And if you wouldn't mind to give us your breakdown, if you will, on, when you see this graph, like what are the first things you're looking for? What comes to mind? First, to see if Davis Best makes this.
Oh.
Wow. He gave it the best run he could give it right there. All right, here we go.
This is actually the first time I'm looking at this pattern.
Well, there you go. That's what I do here.
So, I mean, just know, like I said, knowing the house and then seeing where the loads are at, it looks like you want to be around 15, 16 through the arrows and fairly straight. Not a big ball, and with how much the front's hooked here, it's big balls will either burn up and act like they're going 60 feet or they actually go 60 feet. So I would probably recommend some like big symmetrical pieces, something a little with a cleaner cover to get that ball through the front part of the lane with all that friction there, and just kind of keep the angles closed. I mean, yeah, that's how I personally attack it if I were looking at this. Probably not a lot of surface. If there's anything that I learned, surface doesn't exactly work well here.
Interesting.
Yeah. I mean, PWBA event, when the long pattern, like, everyone shined their stuff.
Good point.
Everyone. It was, yeah, I don't know why. I don't know what. I mean, I would assume it's from the front part of the lane being as high friction as it is, but yeah, I mean, if you go back to that PWBA event, everyone they shined everything. So
I think Andy Velo may have kind of give a little credence as to why the friction, kind of exists on these lanes, and he said that these were kind of like the original test panels for Brunswick Pro Am.
Okay, that makes sense. Andy, Alexis's dad, they actually have the same surfaces here, which makes sense because his place, it's very high friction in the front part of the lane. So that actually makes a lot of sense. I didn't know that.
Yeah, he said he learned that years back, but they went so far. Oh,
that's textbook.
Textbook. Wow. How about that? I love the reaction to that. That was great. They even I think he said, maybe there was 2 instances, but at some point they lifted the lane up and, there was like cinder blocks underneath. And cinder blocks were kind of crushed. And, so they got that fixed. And then, like he said, the next year, the amount of honor scores that were shot in here just went through the roof, just from essentially fixing panels to a degree. But the actual panels came from their first original test from Brunswick Pro Am, which it's like, wow. And then forgot who had them first, but they had a 50-lane center. And they were like, okay, well, we need to get rid of them, essentially. And this building used to hold 50 lanes. And so this is where.
So Rich, he is the part owner of this place. Talking with him, when he took over, it was 50 lanes, and so he did a great things with this place, great things, and Maple, his other center.
Absolutely, Maple Lanes. They had gone through a fire a couple years back, and obviously complete remodel. And I saw it for the first time in general, did not get a chance to see it in its original form. But part of this tournament, great washout too, by the way, from next door on 23 and 24. The second day of this tournament last year was at Maple. So players and fans, parents could get a chance to experience both centers. And then both centers from a bowling perspective, would get a chance to house the tournament or hold the tournament. But Maple is such a fine facility.
Very.
There's a cool social.
We actually bowl league over there.
Andy Belo told me this morning.
Yep.
He said week 1.
Yeah.
You came out and
I came out firing at him.
801. Uh-oh. Whew. Nice shot by Carly.
Hey, I told him that.
So Tyler's about to make it 2-1 left, folks. Just FYI. Just heard it from the coaches.
Making a ball change too.
Do you have a favorite or a favored type of length of condition? For example, like do you enjoy long patterns? Do you prefer short, medium?
Anywhere I can keep my angles as straight as possible. It could be 46 feet, it could be 35 feet. If I can keep it in front of me, I'm typically going to bowl well. But no, I mean, I like the shorter patterns, obviously. I'm able to throw urethane. So, but no, I have gotten to the point where I don't try to have favorite lengths, because I feel like if I do that, I kind of get into a mindset to where, like,
I understand that.
Oh, it's 41 feet. Like, I'm not.
Right, you're not going to bowl well.
Not going to bowl well. Like, I have to create a different shape. I've just started to get the mindset of you take what's given to you and you bowl the best you can. Like, that's one thing I picked up just from a lot of the guys on tour, like, I mean, that I'm able to talk to. They don't have a favorite anything. They just bowl. They don't pay attention to any of that. Obviously, they pay attention to it to an extent, but in terms of, like, favorite length, they just play what's out there.
Seems like the proper probably attitude to have.
Yeah, I will say, obviously, when I was younger, I kind of fell victim to that. If it wasn't a short pattern at the time, I all but took myself out of it. But we grow. We grow.
The 2-1 move. Bang.
I think that was a good move.
How about that? Well, I tell you, if this coach thing's going to be as easy as that, you're going to be good. Young Brooklyn here. We saw her on the short pattern this morning. Spared 3-bagger next to her on 27 and 28. Carly A tour. Keep it online for the young two-handed lefty. Skylar Petz, who led U15 girls on throwing them just like that, actually, this morning on the short pattern. I mean, she might be a few boards further left than she was on the short, but you know, she was left 12, 13-ish, kind of almost like playing a shim.
Yeah, it's weird that, like I said, we talk about that short pattern and kind of playing like uncharacteristically. Like there was a lot of girls, especially. I didn't really see many of the guys doing it. Many of the guys I saw were throwing urethane, but that I really paid attention to. But there was a lot of the girls that were playing that 10, 11 and just jamming it, and it was like very unusual. But like I said, you play what's given to you. If it's there, it's there. Who cares? As long as they all fall down.
In the booth with Brandon Runk, assistant coach at Wartburg College. Also competes on the PBA tour. And we just talked about kind of some lessons you've learned on the PBA tour. What's been some of your, in your opinion, some of your favorite moments or finer moments on tour to this point?
I mean, obviously the player show I made. That was probably the best I think I've ever bowled throughout qualifying and even on the show. I mean, granted I did lose my first match, but I'll take 240 any day of the week, and I'll take my chances on that.
Right.
But no, I mean, between that, getting my first PBA 300 this past year, those are a couple of the ones that really stick out. But just the connections I'm able to make with a couple of the guys, Kevin McCune being one, Jacob. But no, it's fun. It's a fun time. It's a tight-knit family out there, and we all look out for each other. So it's, if you ever have the opportunity, go do it.
What made you decide to do it?
The woman I married.
Okay.
So, basically up until then, like,
Good reason to marry.
yeah. So there was a lot of second guessing myself, lack of confidence in myself to really make that jump. And she helped me see things that I couldn't quite see in myself. So I got my card the year before. I just stuck to the regional circuit for that year. I was able to win Rookie of the Year. I had a good finish in the RPI. I had a top 16 finish there. And then once the tour season got released, I thought about doing a couple events here and there, but I wasn't going to do a full tour. I was just going to do what I could drive to. And first event, it was the Players. And I wasn't going to do it initially, but Alexis was like, just trust yourself type deal, just go do it, go bowl. And, well, first national event, and we made the TV show. We were able to get a contract after that, and I eventually did that entire tour season and was a Rookie of the Year nominee that year, so it was, I think it played out well. So.
Jackson Satterley, Andy Belo told us earlier that he won Iowa High School State, I believe.
This past year?
Yeah, I think maybe 2 years, but at least one for sure. So I don't know if he's in college yet, but
if he's not, I'll be talking with him. That's one way to get the 8-10 out.
The attitudes, and not that they weren't good earlier. I just, you look at that short pattern, and it's the first one out the gates, right? So you know, players are just trying to be comfortable and leave stuff they can make, get that arm swing to feel a little bit loose. And then I think as the day went on, or as the block went on, you started to gradually see a few more smiles, some more interaction amongst players. And, you know, we're seeing it off the bat right now. I think part of it is just because people are just striking more right off the bat.
It's very easy to smile when you're stringing them. It is very easy to do that. I mean, even...
Oh, nice spare, Carly.
There we go.
Wow. Just off to the left, she made the...
it was the 5-6-10. Perfectly.
So used to saying the 4-5-7.
Yeah. But, no, I mean, even those people that aren't bowling well, like, if there's one thing that I notice, it's they're all, a lot of the youth, especially in this event, they have a very good way of looking at things, and they're very positive regardless of their situation, and that's very refreshing to see. Down there on 33, we have someone with the front 6.
Okay. Haven't had really, not that I know of. I can see what was happening, of course, on the low end. I've been on the high end and will be, but haven't heard any rumblings of 300s or potentials of those.
Griffin Landon, it looks like. Yep. With the front 6. Hopefully I didn't just black cloud that.
Well, the likelihood of it happening is very high, based on my experience. Well, we were watching Davis earlier today and really like his game. Two-handed style, but to me, it's a little bit different than those. It's a little lower to the ground, I think. It's
kind of like the Simo type.
Yeah, a little bit. Yes.
Yep. I didn't black cloud him on that shot.
Good. Front 7. A 7 for Griffin on 33 and 34. And we watched young Brooklyn.
Oh.
Easton can't get the carry on the 7. He gave that look.
Sending all those pins, and none of them want to hit it.
See Brooklyn left of your screen. Slow ball speed. Ball speed works perfect. Got a little slower ball speed, obviously, in a longer pattern. You can play the middle of the lane a little bit better than some others in that track area. See, Tyler and Josh both having some strings of strikes down there on 29 and 30. Of course, that's on the right of your screen currently. Tyler started with that very tough 2-4 strike, and then back-to-back splits, and then he's ran off 4 in a row.
Who needs marks?
Griffin is up. We'll give you an update. By the way, folks, you can watch progress from any player.
Ooh, front 8.
Any player in the field via Lane Talk. Visit lanetalk.com. Click on the live scoring or download the Lane Talk app. It's out there from Landon. And you can see all of the scores, live scoring, and other oddities and stats of what's going on here at this week's event by searching Cadillac Lanes when you get to Lane Talk.
Seven-pin stubborn on that right lane right there on 26.
Nailed to the ground. So we've had a couple of 270 games.
Just stay on that lane. Come on, bail it out here.
No games of 280 or more. We're
No,
inching
what?
closer to it.
Trey's 279, I think, is the highest so
Anthony
far.
Swanson shot 276 to open up the long pattern here. Break there for Davis. Evan Wiedebrand. He had a pretty good first block this morning, but so far struggling with this long pattern. He had a lot of ball speed, so that could counteract the long pattern.
Yeah.
Ball speed and rev rate sometimes don't match up on longer conditions. If you float one, if you miss it at the bottom, all those things come to play. Oh, nice spare though. We'll take that pin action on that spare.
There's been a lot of pin action on a lot of these spares.
That was like a strike right there.
Yeah.
That's how much pin action he got. That was like a light mix.
Because you go back the way that Brooklyn made her bucket. The sidewalls, they bounce here. They bounce here. Surprised we haven't had a 710 made. At least that we know of.
Oh, that's a good point. I think I was saying that during the Tour Championship week. Like I felt like it could happen that week because absolutely. Good call. Griffin is up, folks, on 33 and 34.
Front nine.
I think he crossed over too, but he'll take it.
No, did he? I thought that was pretty flush.
It looked like it.
I don't know.
Based on his reaction.
They all fell.
They did
They
all
all
fall.
fell.
There was no doubt about that.
It was in a pocket. It was in a pocket. Whether it be the 1-2 or 1-3, it's to be decided.
Might do a little camera change in there. Plot my path to go try to change that, turn that camera. My view is blocked. Skylar can spare strike for 165.
Tell you what, with a 2-4 start to the game, 190, I think we'll take that.
That's pretty good.
I think we'll take that. Oh,
Savannah. Savannah is, hey, there are some games where you get multiple breaks.
pins just fall
Just gotta
your
take
way.
it.
Take and run. Oh, pocket 5 pin.
Rush still striking. He's down now on the in pair. All right, hang tight. Don't.
Oh, I
go.
will. Camera change here. Potential 300. All right, Griffin's up with the first one in attempt here. Potential 300. All right, first one down the lane. changed that camera. Just ran the flat 10.
Got over there. Did all that work. Great game, though, Griff.
Very good game. I think he bowled pretty well the first game.
Let's see. Let's check bowl metrics. Yeah, 222.
Well, that'll definitely help the
He's
cause.
still going to be in the lead, probably,
I would like to think.
unless Trey shot 300, which also could be probable lost.
Still no game higher than 279.
That's a good wide view, though, folks, of Cadillac XBC. That's the high end of the building. Again, that used to be lane 50.
Yep.
It's now lane 36. The low end, but what was the low end of the building is now a really cool arcade.
Yep, they got
laser
the
tag
virtual
area.
reality, laser tag, a bunch of different games. Haven't been down there, actually. That might need to change.
Yeah, you need to get down there. I told Mick, the GM here, Mick Hackbarth, you know, that was the locker room for the PWBA week.
Yep.
And so all the games were off. and I told him I was actually disappointed because, you know, we had some
In between
downtime.
blocks, you want to go in there, maybe hit up the virtual reality. You never know.
All right, how many games I got? Can I get you one more?
If you want me here one more, I'll
One
be
more
here
game.
one more.
Be like Rocky, one more round.
Absolutely.
One more round. Just about the time last block, we had that, there was like a little small pace delay, and there are a few crosses with 5, the majority have 6.
Yeah.
And so it was like a small little roller coaster, if you will, of groups making their way to their respective new pairs. And,
Yeah, because first block especially, I was talking with Tyler. Like, he was middle of game 5, and one of his friends, they were just starting game 4. The pace here got a little funky, but
yeah, the event sold out, but there were a few unfortunate last-minute withdrawals. We do have a group on 23 and 24 starting game 3, and then the 10th frame coming up here for young Caleb. As you can see, 31 and 32. We'll move on over because I have to go move that camera anyway. So here's game 3, and there is Nicholas Pappas Jr.
I kept telling him to move, but it kept fucking early.
Easton Wiedebrand, perhaps brothers with Evan. They got the same last name. Gracie French. It's 23 and 24, and then 27 through 30 now is full. Looks like the group on 19 and 20 are in the 10th frame. So in a moment, they'll be on 25 and 26. See which of these good young people have given us a couple of additional items to share and talk about. Some of them were gracious enough to provide some bio information, which is always helpful.
Yep.
Quick look at 27 through 30 in a moment here. In fact, let's see, let's do it now. Scott is watching. Carrie's father was watching earlier. He could not be here. He is in Missouri actually this weekend, so he was watching his daughter earlier. Actually talking about ball selection during the practice session.
Yep.
Had him on FaceTime. I saw yesterday.
Never too far away to coach.
I know it's early, but what's been one of your favorite parts of your new role as a coach to this point? And you got a long way to go, obviously.
Yes,
but
yeah.
Even in the first couple months here.
So the first, I mean, I would say the best thing is just seeing the kids, like giving them things to work on, like practice, and just seeing them get better. It's very rewarding. A lot of the kids that we have, they're very absorbent, very willing to learn, and they want to get better. So just helping them out and just seeing their scores improve. They're doing things that they didn't think they could do, so just give them that little bit of vote of confidence is
Right.
It's very rewarding as a coach, and it's nice to see just smiles on their face. I would say that's probably the best thing thus far. Now, obviously, like you said, it is a very, very early in the season, so, but right now that's, like, so there's one kid on our team, two-hander, never really had any true, like, formal coaching up until this year, and he was averaging about 160, give or take. And I just gave him two things to work on throughout the first 2 weeks. And we actually had score evaluations last week. And he managed to average 210, 220 on 3 different patterns. So just he improved his average almost 40 or so pins. Wow. 40, 60 pins just in 2 weeks. Now granted,
That's
one week of bowling, so, but still, it's nice to see that kind of stuff.
Especially on tough stuff.
Yeah, we had 3 different patterns out. It was we picked Middle Road, a Dick Weber pattern, and Cheetah. And the Dick Weber pattern, he actually had the front 5 or 6 a couple times, and was able to lead that day actually. And he told me, he's like, I never thought that I would get to that point to where he's bowling that well, and he was very ecstatic. Very ecstatic. Definitely gave him confidence going into this season.
Do you guys have like a team tryout, team trials? Everyone kind of does it differently.
So it's not necessarily a tryout. Us being club,
Gotcha.
I mean, everyone's able to bowl.
Right.
So we call it score evaluations. We just give them 3 different patterns. We did 4 games a day, and we just kind of want to see like where they're at. things they need to work on, that kind of stuff. Just kind of gives us a good building block on what they need to work on, and especially like in competition, that kind of thing. So. That right lane on 26. That's hooking a little early.
So funny you say that. So Griffin, I don't think he finished on this pair, but it was either games 4 or 5, one or the other. But he struck 9 times. He was 1 out of 4 on the right lane. He left like a 9-pin, a 3-10, and something else. Made them all, but it was just the right lane.
So that going back to the house characteristics and things we talked about, for whatever reason, these right lanes in this building, doesn't matter the end of the building, the pair, it just doesn't matter. The right lanes hook, I would say, at least 2 to 3 more than the left lanes. It's very interesting. Very interesting. Because I go back to the PWBA event, and just being behind Alexis, she played every right lane at least 2 to 3 different.
Right.
It's doesn't matter the pattern.
This is game 3, folks. Got Brandon Ruck hanging in there for one more game. I appreciate him.
Yeah.
Assistant coach at Wartburg College. I learned that Waverly is 10-15 minutes away.
Yeah.
Fair to say?
Yep. Maybe probably closer to 20, but yeah, not too far.
Man, Brett Ryman back on 25 and 26. He shot, I think, 220 or 230 on this pair, 25 and 26 this morning. On short. In fact, speaking of scores,
Have some good scores down there on 21 and 22.
good look at bowl metrics here. 21 and 20. Yeah, you're right. Couple of strings.
Have a 260, two 260 outs. Now 240 or so.
Griffin is plus 98 after 2, and U18 boys. Trey Henriksmeyer plus 37 after 2.
There's some separation there.
Josh Sachs is plus at third at plus 29. Landon Jordan's fourth at plus 27. Carson Reed is fifth at plus 26. Again, after the 15 games, of course, 5 more tomorrow. The top 4 in each division will advance to the Stepladder finals in their respective divisions. Look at U18 girls. And Abby Starkey with a great start. Plus 73 for the first 2. And she's out to another start again, also on 21 and 22.
Oh, you got
Abby.
the pin action there.
He just rolled the 0457.
Good old Wally hit.
She might be in like the 730-40ish range for the first 3 games here.
I'd say that's a good start.
And I'm being not even. I think I'm being not giving enough credit.
Boy, she can 269.
260. I mean, you know, at least I'm thinking she's got a plus 100 almost in the bag.
She strikes out. That's 740.
Oh, nice spare. We had a little 4-9 pickup on 23 and 24 from young Cole. Brooklyn, who we just saw on 27 and 28, she's gone plus 35 after the 225 game. Gianna Brandolino, who led the short pattern this morning at plus, I believe she went plus 50 or plus 90. Check that.
Brooklyn's off to a good start this game too. Spare 3-bagger.
G went plus 50 this morning, so she's third at plus 12. And Ashlyn Tevis right now fourth at minus 9. Again, this is on this pattern. When we get into totals, Gianna plus 62 for 7 games. At this point, Abigail Starkey is now plus 16 after 7. Brooklyn High third at minus 15. Tevis minus 22. Talking about separation. Ashland is minus 22. Fifth is minus 129 in U18 girls.
Wow.
Totals for U18 boys: Carson Reed plus 100, Josh Sachs plus 95, Trey Henriksmeyer plus 77. That's third. Griffin Jordan is currently fourth at plus 76, which is the number. And Landon Jordan right now fifth at plus 39. There are 5 boys in U18 who are plus.
Oh. Oh. We're like, what?
I was like, what?
We missed that? That's awesome.
Sophia DeLucia's father, who I believe he said he has at least one son. I thought he told me yesterday he had 2, but maybe just one. But both of his children are left-handed. He is not.
That's like Alexis. She's the only righty in her family. Andy and Anthony are both
Oh
left-handed.
yeah, wow, about that. I didn't think about that. Oh yeah, his son bowls for Aquinas, and of course bowling in the Midwest Youth, or not Midwest Youth. That's not
Midwest Collegiate.
Midwest Collegiate Championships. This is the Midwest Youth. U15 boys again. Totals: Rushdeen plus 141, Anthony Swanson plus 98, and then there is a drop-off in U8 or U15 boys with JT Grothus and Josh Weems both at minus 60. That's tied for third. Again, second is plus 98. Third is minus 60.
Wow.
That's U15 boys. Sebi Vetter right there, minus 80.
Tell you what, you look at Rush, you would not think he's U15.
No.
No. The first time I met him, I saw him. I thought he would have been like U18, U20, and then his dad told me he's in the U15. I'm like, what?
Honestly, after getting to know the family and seeing Rush bowl for the last 3 years, his growth spurt was pretty significant.
Yeah, that's what Brandon was telling me when we first met him. It's he got tall. He got tall quick.
Skylar Petts is leading U15 girls at minus 100. Sophia DeLucia is second, minus 1. Oh, my
that's
gosh.
a 7-pin. That's
on that
7-pin
lane.
on that lane.
Lane 26, 7 pins have not been kind at all in regards to carry. Abby's going to be in at least the 230s. So she is going to be plus 100 after 3 games.
Brooklyn has 4 in a row right now. Spare 4-bagger.
Bowling very well. She likes this pattern. Ashland Tevis. A little shine on that piece of equipment. Be like
an exotic gem.
Yeah. Yeah. Early on the short, we were trying to just kind of decipher what types of equipment was going to be best. And typically on a short pattern, you see some surface. You want something obviously that's not going to duck hook at the end of the pattern. That's going to give you a little hook stop, a little forward motion.
Yep. And I actually saw a lot of pros go down the lane on that short pattern, especially from the girls. So when the kid that we have bowling for Wartburg, Tyler, he had 2 girls on his pair, and they were both throwing bigger ace and pearls. One was throwing an exotic gem. I couldn't tell what the other one was throwing, but I saw a lot of pearls on the short pattern. Definitely out of the norm. But
What's the standard, typical, general, if you will, rule of thumb on types of shapes, both on short and long?
Well, like you said, like on the short patterns especially, like you typically want to see the bigger balls and surface to kind of get it to hook stop, kind of like a urethane-like motion, or most people nowadays, they just go right to the urethane. But no, you typically see a lot of that, but we talked about just how this house plays and what Andy was telling us with how the panels and all that, and it seems like in this center, regardless of the pattern, I have seen a lot of ASIMs, shiny ASIMs work best. You don't see a lot of bigger balls thrown like gems or like NV Tours. You don't see a lot of those balls go down the lane. You see a lot of the cleaner ASIMs, the pearls, go down the lane right now. So you got to play the topography and just the characteristics of this center. But normally you would throw bigger balls on a long pattern with surface, but not in this instance.
Nice little carry there for Byron. Ivan Christensen, he's from Vinton, Iowa. Sophomore, enjoys some physical education. Fishing, making fishing baits. Some bowling, hanging out with friends.
Good pickup there from Sophia.
As much as we've seen more strikes thrown this block, there still are a few you just kind of look out, and I think part of that is just a little bit of inexperience.
Yeah.
You know, as you watch kind of players trying to play the lanes.
Yeah, it seems like, especially on patterns nowadays, you gotta be, they break down so quick anymore. You gotta pay attention to that and be ahead of the moves as much as you can. That's where you gotta pay attention to how the people play them ahead of you. It goes a long way.
Gary finishing up from Bellevue West Senior High. Loves art, animals, a little bit of gaming, mascotting, weightlifting, and bowling.
Mascotting, that's...
I've never seen that before
No.
from a youth player. But I'm impressed and I admire it.
Yeah.
Because that is not an easy thing to do.
No. Especially on hot summer days. I envy that person.
Have you
who wants
ever
to do that.
worn a mascot costume?
I can't say that I have. Can't say that I have.
I've done it once.
How'd that go?
I was an intern in the minor league baseball team out of college. And I was goober for one for one appearance at Maggie Moo's Ice Cream.
Oh my.
It wasn't hot yet. This was in South Georgia, so it
could have.
Right.
It could have gotten hot.
Great opportunity there, young Caden, to make that. You gave it a run.
It's twice. We've seen someone
Yeah,
get
that's true.
that back pin, that sleeper pin. It's pesky.
Talked about Allison Roberts earlier. Rockford, Illinois. It's to Harlem High School. Trying to find something consistent.
Seems like transition's starting to go through right now. moves need to be made. Good shot there.
Well, you throw a good young Cole Sundstrom over there, and you're just unable to just kind of drive yet. Ball leaves a little bit of an 8-10. But earlier you left a 4-9 and made it. Young Hunter, give him a shout out. His parents, Kelly Chad, Matt Kelly. She's now one of the newest committee members of the Youth Bowling Scholarship Foundation. Transition, definitely, that's it. Carson Reed.
Oh,
Just about to say, he had the front 5.
looked like a pretty bad break there for a 7-pin. Fronts are definitely starting to go.
So from your coaching perspective now, right? If your team is in this situation, which you very well could be on a long pattern, especially with college bowling, things start to transition quickly.
Oh, very much so. With 10 on a pair, yeah, absolutely. But no, I mean in this instance, we're taking one big step left, and we're throwing it at the 3-pin. At least,
Sure.
on this pattern.
Right.
Wouldn't advise that on 35 feet.
And with that type of move, what are you anticipating to happen? Like, what should you see?
So typically, like, at least from when I bowled collegiately, and just watching the righties bowl, and how they attack the lanes, especially in the longer patterns, it's typically a lot of surface right to kind of create that hook spot, and then you ball down, move in off that, and typically you're able to stay there for 2-3 games, and then 9 times out of 10 they're taking a big step left up against the ball return, maybe even lofting it, and from the bigger balls right. And with how they play them in those middle games, you almost create like a funnel for yourself. So you go to like a symmetrical pearl or an asim pearl, whatever kind of fits your game, and you throw it at the 3-pin, and if you get it right at that, you have the hook there from all that surface that's burnt there. So that's usually, at least that's how it was when I was in college. I mean, obviously, urethane wasn't a big thing
that's a
then,
great point.
so that changes things. But because that was pretty much the start of the urethane phase. My last couple of years in college.
What school did you go to?
I went to William Patterson.
Oh, that's right.
Yep.
My man Greg.
Yeah. Shout out to Greg.
Talk about tradition. That's
He's done great things with that program.
Willie P, man.
Wish we were able to win, but I think we had 3 top 5 finishes in the 3 years I was there, so we'll take it, I guess.
Yeah, you can. Of course, aside from winning or making the show, but that's hard to beat.
Yeah.
That is tough to beat.
Yeah, my first year there, we unfortunately team-wise I had to sit. I had the red shirt. That was the year I made singles, and they made the show against McKendree. And then after that, we would always get to the match before, but we couldn't get past that. that is an experience like none other.
It's. I mean, I guess when you really sit back and think about what you're now doing, and, you know, obviously changing these young lives, and helping them out in that regard. I mean, you're not that far removed from being in that environment.
No. Trust me, I still have 1 year of eligibility for team. There have been times where I've contemplated it, but unfortunately, they have rules against PBA.
I was about to say, you may have missed
they
that
have rules against that.
Missed that opportunity.
But the college nationals, that environment, that atmosphere, I really want the kids that we're coaching right now to experience that in the short time that you're in college. It's something you will never forget.
Got some new group, or a new group on 27 and 28 as we finish up the 10th frame here on 23 and 24. Byron Christensen. And Byron here, first of all, throws are pretty good. And then secondly, I mentioned, I think fishing for him was one of the things he enjoyed. And I'm going to scroll all the way to the end where the question is, what is your dream occupation? Byron said, owning my own successful bait making business full time. You know what it's called? I'll take a guess. Just take a guess. Loves bass fishing, enjoys making baits.
You know, it's sad because like the area we lived in Pennsylvania, that's big. You'd think I would remember something like that, but unfortunately I do not.
Well, the name of like what he would call his business. What do you think the name would be?
See, this is my lack of creativity here. I can't quite think of something.
It's so simple. You missed it.
I believe that.
Byron's Baits.
That is very simple. Right in front of your face, you just see it. And you
Well, good luck to Byron on that, honestly. I hope to see him continue to bowl well. He just shot 215, but I love the business ideas already at this age.
Yeah. Hey, you have that vision early, you go with it.
Young Cole will close it out on 23 and 24.
Can you make another split?
Mentioned Chase Cladd here earlier. Talked about one of his teachers at school. I believe it was Miss Miller. Anything agricultural, he said, with Mrs. Miller. Which means that more than likely, right, he's got a good future or a bright future ahead already within the agricultural industry. We got Abby Starkey. We've got Joss Weems. We got Davin Smith over here on 27 and 28. You see them in a moment. Okay, Davin.
Abby's off to another good start this game. Granted, you're only 2 frames in, but.
Well, I didn't see what she finished with. I'm going to assume she made that spare.
I would like to think.
Let me check bowl metrics.
Pocket 5 thing.
All right, not there. Her score hasn't been inputted yet. So I'm going to assume it's 230. Let's just give her 238.
Yeah.
Spare strike. So that would be plus 111.
That is a very good start.
Which, depending on what Griffin has done this game or in game 3, I mean, that could be leading all divisions.
That was close.
Wow.
I think it's harder to miss it on the lane as it is to make it.
shot there from Josh. He struggled early on the short pattern, but specifically game one on the fresh. Just trying to figure out, where he wanted, I think, his ball to hook, and really in the middle part of the lane.
It seemed like there was definitely multiple angles of attack. It was trying to figure out what kind of suits your game best, and just committing to it and making the shots. It seems like he knows how to make. He throws it really good too. I feel like you see a lot of those bad games. It's not necessarily anything to do with ball reaction, but just trusting the shot making that these kids know how to make.
Well, Ashland, man, coming up high on the head pin a lot. She threw a little bit of urethane earlier on the short. She also threw reactive.
Yeah, when I remember watching her, I think it was game 2. Rough start. I think she was in reactive, went to the urethane and had I think she ended up striking out. She had like a 30 in the third, and ended up at least the next 5, maybe a spare in there, and then just kind of ran with it. She bowled well from there on out when she went to urethane.
Yeah, she did receive a medal this morning for a top 3 finish on short.
I figured she bowled well. She throws it really good too. I say that about a lot of the youth right now. That's
well, we're kind of running out of words, superlatives to describe the youth today. Honestly, it's like it's obvious they threw it well.
Yeah.
And so you gotta sometimes you dig a little deeper, just to highlight some of the things that maybe someone does that in some capacity you just wouldn't anticipate seeing, right? Or they're doing something so early that people like yourself or other tour players do, but it took them years to learn it.
Yeah,
they already know it.
Yeah, the youth are
This
very
group knows
much
it already.
ahead of their time. Right. That is for sure. But I mean, I feel like social media has a lot to do with that. Just being able to look up certain things and you have the answers right in your pocket. It's definitely a nice tool to have, and it seems like a lot of these kids, especially here, they're committed to bowling and they want to learn all aspects of it, and they absorb everything, and they're definitely they're ahead of pace from our when I was a youth, that's for sure.
Well, I always tell people, I'm a pretty old fella at this point. I'm 39. So there's multiple generations now, or youth eras that have gone by. When you look at where we are currently, my youth days, your youth days, there's probably even another little youth generation there as well, and then okay, here they are. It's like, oh.
Yeah, it's like Alexis and I talk about this quite a lot. It's like just seeing the talent of youth. Like you would have, for example, when I was youth, you had Cameron Doyle, Greg Young, Wesley Lowe, Riley Smith when he was in college. There was, just to name a few, the talent. Martell, he was there. There was a lot of talented youth bowlers coming up through junior gold and all that. Then it kind of took a dip, but now you have Jillian, Spencer, and then a lot of the kids here who they're working up towards that. It's great to see for the future, especially.
Wow. Josh cannot get any carry. Ashland's going to be in the 170s.
A little bit of a rough game. Shouldn't hurt her too much overall, though, I don't think.
No, I agree. Yeah, we were were talking about earlier, 180s weren't bad.
Yeah, no. They're not easy patterns. There's a couple of kids who are making them look pretty easy, but what, I think the biggest ratio is like 2.4 or so to 1.
Yeah,
I think that's the highest. So there's not a lot of room for error.
Yeah, this morning's pattern was less than 2 to 1.
It was like 1 point. Yeah, something like that. I mean, most short patterns are just
That's true.
because of like you're confined to one area on the lane almost, but yeah, I mean, even the short pattern, I thought I was going to play a lot easier than it did, and they played hard. I think Abby likes the long pattern.
.67 there for Keegan. Guys don't finish at .5. Sophia DeLucia, who is right in the mix in U15 girls.
Double here for 2 team. Got a break there.
Looks like Carson Reed is going to be in the 220s or 30s again, so that's a pretty solid start again for him as the overall leader of U18 boys. Here's Abby.
Running away with it.
She's got, well, she's a highly sought after recruit.
I see why.
If bowling had, youth bowling had, the star rankings, the 5-star and all that, she would be a 5-star.
Definitely.
Josh would also be a 5-star. He's just starting high school. He just started high school.
That's what I mean. Like, I wasn't dreaming to throw it this well
He's
when
a
I
freshman.
was going into high school. I was still trying to figure out what sport I wanted to play. I didn't start bowling competitively until like my freshman, sophomore year of high school.
Yeah, they finished with 196. Chase finishes at 169.
There she goes.
Wow.
It is impressive to watch.
That's the funny part is like she knows some of the scary. She's getting bumped just based on her looks. Like she knows like, all right, I'm gonna take it.
Yeah. She's going to do great things in college.
No doubt. Reminds me of Wichita State had I think they had like a 4 or 5 player, or more than that, but specifically this recruiting class, which was I guess about 6 years ago now, maybe 5. That included like Madison Janak and Olivia Komorowski, and I think Eddie Herzberg might have been part of that, like that group, right? And there's a group very similar, although those individuals all went to the same school. But like there's a group with Abby, and there's Caitlin Abagania, Gianna Brandolino, Caitlin Stoll. They're all in the same grade. Like, so a couple of them could end up on the same team.
Yeah.
3 of them
You never know.
Might be very difficult to get all 4 if I'm a coach, though.
Could you imagine if you got all 4?
Listen, I'm calling my AD. I'm telling
we
you.
need more scholarship
Listen.
money.
This is a legit program-changing year opportunity for us.
We will be on the map if we already aren't.
Well, sir, I got you through game 3, so I'm going to let you go back and be just a coach.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me on.
I appreciate
Neil.
you.
I appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate
That
it.
is Brandon Runk, folks, assistant coach at Wartburg College. We're into game 4 officially now, so we'll take a break. We'll come back, and we'll finish this thing out right here on Bullstream TV. Abby's going to appear on the left side of your screen. Very traditional game, too, when you can just kind of think about bowling in our current sense, if you will. But just so solid at the foul line.
What do you think, Daddy-O? Want me to play in? Come on down, the weather's nice.
folks, I admit, officially in game number 4. And before we get to that point, shout out to Abby, again, who just continued to run them over, as we often say in the bowling world. Adds 257 to her total. Let's see if the Bowlmetrics scores have been updated.
That was a 6? Oh, all right.
Because she has owned this pattern so far. So she's gone 224, 249, 238, 257.
That's pretty good.
And that voice you just heard,
In case you're keeping score at home.
is one very important individual.
I wouldn't go that far, but okay.
I mean, you know, specifically from a sponsorship perspective, right? Roto Grip is a proud sponsor of the Midwest
Absolutely.
Youth Main Event.
Yes, sir.
And we welcome in Chris Schlimmer to the Bowlstream TV booth, who is the brand manager, correct?
That is correct, sir.
Of Roto Grip.
Yep. Since 2012.
Roto Schlim. You
Yeah.
may have, you may know him better as.
Yeah, on my social handles. That you know, that was one of those deals to keep the joke back in the day in the tour up days. There was no people that were tagged more in post than me and Chuck Gardner, and you know, because we were the tour reps at the time, and we were kind of, you know, we were on TV all the time and the whole deal, and you know, as social media kept growing and growing, you know, it was just Facebook at the time, but then, you know, things kept growing, and I'm like, man, the social media is supposed to be social media like my friends and family and stuff like that. So that's where when I moved the office and it turned into that whole thing, and actually I can share that part of the story. The name had already kind of started growing with the Roto Schlim thing, and it was solidified by the owner of Storm, God rest his soul, Bill Chrisman, who we recently lost. He had some people come through the office one day, and they're like, "Oh, and this guy right here, he's this is Chris Schlimmer, the Roto Grip guy, you know, Roto Schlim." And I'm like, "Oh, the boss man just called me Roto Schlim. I guess that's a thing now." And you know, that solidified it from that point forward. And so then from then on, it was literally that point on. When he would introduce me to new people that I had never met before, he would refer to me as Roto Schlim, and I'm like, "Well, if the boss says so, that's what we roll with." So.
That's great.
Yes, sir.
That's a fantastic story.
But yeah, I'll tell you what, man, the scores. It's been fun to, you know, this is my first time coming to this event,
Sure.
And I know you were here last year. You know, and I'm sure you've talked about it. This being a playoff of SYCs and kind of
very similar,
kind of like a stepping stone, or I can't really say proving ground, but you know, there are a couple colleges here. You know, we just had Brandon was in here.
Yep.
They got a couple tables set up down here in the end of the concourse.
Yep.
You know, you got some kids that this type of competition is a great environment prior to much larger events, say like a la Junior Gold or the big Junior National Tournament, stuff like that. So, you know, and there's some kids that, you know, that are having a tough go of it. You know, that maybe don't have the equipment resources, or maybe just don't understand how the patterns work. I mean, obviously you can tell some of the kids that do a lot of bowling and understand kind of how they're supposed to attack them. I've seen some frustrated kids, you know, just trying to figure it out. You know, I think they have a general idea of what they're supposed to do, but they just haven't practiced enough, and they don't see the variety of patterns, I guess, so more so like in leagues and stuff like that. You know, now don't get me wrong, there are some youth leagues where there are like challenge shots or sport shots, or, you know, they do variations of different things, but you can definitely tell those who have the, I guess the training stuff, I guess, is, if you will, in today's world, you know, and they get to bowl on competitive stuff, you know, so.
When you are, and you see a lot just from the Storm Youth Championships, obviously, you see our youth today, and so I know you're not surprised at the talent level.
Absolutely not.
Because you get a chance to see it all the time.
I tell you what, man, it's one of those deals, and you know, I've had some chats off air, you know, and the fact of I am old now, and like I was telling you last night, the fact that, you know, my fingertip balls were a hand-me-down plastic ball and a hand-me-down urethane ball from a left-hander who
right.
They're like, oh, the right side's really good. It's never been touched. So back then we didn't have the resources, man, and that's what it's all about in today's world. And we talk about it all the time. I mean, you know, we have the Storm app where you can go through your arsenal on the Storm app. as far as layouts and balls, and we actually have coaching. We have coaches in there.
Wow.
On top of, and there's multiple apps like that out there now that have coaching within the app. And then plenty of these kids, I've met plenty of folks here that, I've got so-and-so as a coach and is my coach here, and so-and-so is my coach over here. And, some of the parents are admittedly like, hey, I only know so much, so we had to find somebody who knows more about bowling balls in the game than I do. Because they want to see their kids succeed, and it's one of those deals of having those resources. So, yeah, having the, because even back then, like when I was a kid or you were a kid, I mean, coaching really wasn't a thing yet. It's like, there was always somebody in the bowling center was better than everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
And they kind of had some tips, but they weren't going to divulge their secrets.
Right.
And that's, I can give you a funny story about that from back in my tour days. And there's probably a guy that you guys probably know by the name of, you probably heard of Norm Duke. It was one of those deals when we got Norm on the team and we had all these different guys and we were trying to solidify and create more of a team type environment thing. And Norm's like, nope, I'm out. And I said, we're just, we're going to go have dinner and, just want to talk and I want you to help the young guys. And he goes, nope, not going to do it. And then, now remember, this is Norm back in his prime still. This is, right. We're talking early, mid-2000s. And I had to pull him aside. I go, Norm, why would you say that? And he goes, I don't want to give these guys my secrets. He goes, I don't want them to beat me with my own secrets. And I go, okay, fair enough. So I had to explain that one to the office. I'm like, hey, I'm taking the guys out. Like you guys asked me to, and, we're doing a team thing. I said, but Norm's not going. And they're like, why isn't Norm going? And I explained to them. They're like, oh, okay.
One of the best to ever do it.
Absolutely. And but what's funny is then as he got later in his career, and him and I have talked about it, and we're still good friends, and he now is an ambassador for our company.
Absolutely.
Because I was the guy solely responsible for getting Norm Duke on staff. Because I went against the grain. I broke the rules way back when, and because I wasn't allowed to give him a comp bowling ball, but I did anyway. And then he rattled off like 7 shows in a row and won a few times. And they're like, hey, hey, Norm. He's like, Schlum's my guy. I'm in. And we tell those stories now as we look back on it. He doesn't even bowl anymore. He's not even bowling on senior tour. But anyway, as he got later in his career, it was one of those things of he had no problem sharing stuff that he had learned and figured out in his career. And the young guys are like, man, Norm just told me this and this and this. I'm like, well, I've known that for like 15 years. But he would never tell you that because that was his trick. That was his deal. So, but... yeah, no, I'll tell you what, man, like I said, practice session last night, there's definitely, anymore, I'm not in awe because and it's not just here, man, it's everywhere across the country. There is so much talent in the youth events. It's awesome to see, especially for those of us that have been in the industry for a long time and we've seen, no pun intended to our youth program, but we've seen the evolution of the sport. We've seen, and it goes even back to, even though Belmo gets credit for it, but two-handed bowling was a thing prior to, but Belmo was the one that solidified it and put it on the map, per se, because because Oscar was already over here bowling on tour, and there were some guys here in America that actually bowled two-handed that were pretty decent, but like it wasn't until it was. What's that?
Chuck Land was one.
Yeah, Tony Lambert was another guy.
Oh, yeah, Tony's great.
There's some guys that were pretty good and made some money. But, it's the deal of you see the two-handers now, and there's some really good ones. And there's some kids that just do it because, it's easier for them. But, they haven't quite figured it out yet. But the other thing, too, it's cool to watch some of the kids that are one-handed that, man, they just zap all over it. And that's kind of that's a thing now, too. When you look at the E.J. Tackett's and the A.J. Chapman's, A.J. Johnson's, all the younger guys, the younger generation that have the high rev rates with minimal effort. Like when I was a kid growing up, there was like 1 or 2 guys who could do that. And you could travel to like the next state over, and you might see 1 or 2 more. And so now you walk into a bowling center, and there's like 1 or 2 on every pair. It's and some of these kids are, as they're growing and you can see that potential coming. Because some of these guys and girls are, man, they're still pretty young. I mean, and you're going to see them a year from now when we come in. They'll be like, oh, hey, you're the next one that now your rev rate's over 500 and you can stand left and just curve the whole lane. Okay, cool.
And this division, I'm sorry, they only have U18 and U15. There's no U12s here.
Yeah, exactly.
And, so, and there are plenty of younger players who.
I want to say the youngest they told me, I think there's a couple that are 13. A couple 13-year-olds. So, yeah, you got 13s, 14s. We have plenty of 15s. And then, yeah, the 18, you know, that 16, 17, 18 group is pretty solid here, too. Hence the reason why the colleges are here. You know, you got some college kids that are through high school that are now into college that are still eligible to bowl because of the age. But yeah, the next generation, and you know, it's a thing of, like I was talking to some parents too, different parts of the country. It's kind of wild to me as the evolution of youth bowling has happened. How in some parts of the country, junior high bowling is making a huge climb. But then we still got parts of the country where high school bowling doesn't even exist.
Correct.
And then you walk into some place, you know, they've got the Red Tail Bowling, they got, you know, home of blah, blah, blah. You walk in some centers and they're the house for 6 teams.
Right.
And then you, like I said, I can go, especially the West Coast. It's not big in the West Coast. You talk about high school bowling, and then they always wonder, like, hey, why are these kids so good? And they're like, well, they were in a junior high team, and then they made their high school team. And now they're on a college team, and you know what I'm saying? Like, it creates this weird, I don't know, dynamic almost, you know, because you can see who's had those advantages, I guess, per se. And you hate to say it that way, but it is an advantage when, think about it, when you're in junior high, you're in 6th grade, and all of a sudden you got to try and make a team.
From that level, absolutely.
Right.
Because just everyone doesn't have that, as you just described. There are entities with school districts, areas of the country that have junior high bowling, and there are still areas of the country where high school bowling, again, no longer exists. I got a nice lesson about that. I was talking to John Sumner.
Okay.
Of course, you know, was running the PWBA for many, many years. And so John is, of course, from Rockford, Illinois.
Yep.
There's a couple of players from Rockford bowling this tournament right now, actually. And I remember talking to him and having a conversation just about Rockford and why high school bowling is always so good there.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of really good players from Rockford go on to college and have had success and whatnot. And he said, well, we start at middle school. And I was like, really?
Yes.
And he said, yes, it's basically like a grassroots kind of feeder system where they have middle school bowling, and then obviously from the middle school, you obviously go to high school. And so they've already had, as we just talked about, these years of
structured. I say it's structured organized bowling, and not to say that Saturday Morning Youth League is not structured organized, because I will tell you, there's some programs across this country that are super great. The ones that have the volunteers that, they've got a coach on every pair, and they got access, to maybe the pro shop guys or stuff like that. But then you got other ones, unfortunately, where there may only be like one director, and if there's 60 kids and one coach, it kind of makes it tough. But like you said, the structure aspect of the middle school, and Illinois has always been the is where it all began, really. And that whole Midwestern, because I'm from Southern Illinois, and really, it started up north, because it was closer. It's the Illinois, Wisconsin, mainly, even into a little bit into Minnesota and stuff like that. With the youth bowling.
Definitely.
And it was a trickle-down effect before it got to Southern Illinois, and then it started expanding like into Missouri and like you get into Indiana, Ohio, and you got the JBTs, and you get the stuff Pennsylvania and that whole little pockets. But yeah, I mean, you're spot on with, you're trying to, 6th grade, you got to make the team, just like you're playing basketball. Like I remember trying to make the basketball team. It's one of those things. So
well, next time Carson Reed is up, and Zane, I kind of want you to. Actually, maybe even every player on this group, right? When you watch players, and you've watched the best, in the world, and what I've learned about watching the best and talking to those who understand, that's a very good break, and JT needed one there.
Again, yes.
I feel like you can always see fundamentally something in like in our case, what we're watching now, a youth player that would suggest they have obviously that foundation, that base that can get them to that, not only the next level, but the level and the level and the level after those.
Correct.
When you look at youth bowling, like what are some of those things that you might see or that stands out typically when you watch youth bowlers?
I want to say, and we've kind of, you and I have chatted a little bit in the last, yesterday and since today. It's one of those things that when you get to this level, and obviously some of these kids are, we're now looking at the 16, 17, 18-year-olds. The kids that have started to figure out, obviously like placement in the front and figuring out the transitions of hips and shoulder movements, whether they realize it or not, but they've worked to get their body to do that.
Right.
To create things, to create the revolutions and stuff off their hand. It's because like any other sport, and granted, and that's the cool thing about bowling. It's all shape sizes. Like this little Bella right here.
Come on, Bella.
She's obviously on the young side of it.
Right.
But she's here competing. But anyway, you see the size. These kids are bigger, stronger. I mean, some of these kids are almost my size. And I'm like, man, I remember when I was a kid, like people looked at me like I was a freak. They're like, oh, you're really big. Like, yeah. But Carson here throws it really good.
Like watch Carson. I mean, he's kind of fanning it around fifth era.
Yep. And he's really good as far as his elbow. He's one of the two-handers. You can tell those first couple steps kind of synonymous or in that repetition of kind of what Belmo does as far as placement. Kind of that little fidgety, and then kind of sets it in there and make sure he gets his elbow tucked in so his elbow stays in it. All too often, and I'm sure you've seen it plenty of times, and whether you realize or not, I mean, the two-handers, so many times, the easiest tip I can give them, I said, do you know why your ball does that? Oh, I don't know. Okay, well, your elbow has to go to your target. You've got to be able to feed the ball with your hand. You're just, point of releases, you're just like a one-hander.
Right.
And then they just kind of look at you, and they go, so when your elbow's pointing that way, and you're looking at something 4 feet that way, and they go, oh, nobody's ever told me that before. I'm like, yeah. And so that's a prime example of stuff like that. Even if it's just turned a little bit, it's hard to get it to feed when your elbow's not pointing at that target, because that means your hand's underneath it. Your hand's already to the side of it. So, they're trying to manipulate it. Some of these kids have gotten good at manipulating and kind of flipping it off their hand. But then when you get patterns like this that are 46 feet and you flip it off your hand, some of the kids, there's some pretty good two-handers floating through here, the bowl SOACs and stuff, and they're like, be floor bagger, and it's like, fly by the head pin. They're like, oh. And then they'll make an adjustment, and it goes through the face. Like that right there. I mean, he's in the right zone. I can, looking at that game right there, I mean, he's in a spot where he's already starting to develop that little bit of feel and touch, where there aren't too many kids in a building that have that right there. Now, what does that translate to? Obviously, he's looking, looks like he's already bowled some of the PBA junior stuff, so I'm guessing he's into probably closer to the college ranks or almost there. And how that's going to translate into college bowling, that's another animal. Like we talked to dinner last night, it's a different animal in itself as far as, and that's a crazy thing to me, with college bowling, they don't even see patterns like this in some cases. Carson throws it here like that, and he might be the number 3 slot on some teams.
Right.
And there's, now you got 10 kids that throw it that way, and the pattern's only 43 feet, and they have less volume. Well, by the end of practice, they're lofting the left gutter. Like, I can't count how many times I've seen it or I hear it when kids are like, coaches like, hey, can we reach out to you? I got questions about my kids, and, this is what always happens. And it's like, oh, wow, yeah, so they're already into weak bowling ball, no matter the pattern, length.
Right, and there are some teams who believe that their strong suit is, get them left quick, and they might have an advantage over other teams. So they try to force other teams to get there quicker, too.
Yep. Yeah, there's definitely a strategy to it. So
JT with a nice
sneaky turkey there.
My guy, Sebi Vetter here, just talking to his dad. He was struggling a little bit here on this long pattern, but he's got an opportunity. We've seen several, and I actually mean that today, several 270-plus games this block.
Yes. Not so much the first block on the short. There's some kids and parents that were frustrated, and I think more or less that maybe they didn't understand, because it was the deal of, in some of the conversations I had with parents, explaining our technology and things that happen in reference to, we had a practice session last night for 3 hours. Some of the kids bowled the full 3 hours. And it was the first time the pattern was put on the lanes. And just like the tour stops and anything else, well, you got to wipe out the house memory. There's another strip and ray oil. And I heard quite a few folks even this morning, you're like, hey, this short plays different than what the short was last night. Well, the lane's been stripped and oiled a couple more times since then. And they get a little bit cleaner. And so that causes friction to show up in different parts of the lane. Using the free push that's in there. That 46, and there's that big long strip down the middle that, as long as you get it on the right line, feeding to the right but not forcing it right, it'll hold pocket. So anyway, there was some kids that struggled getting to 100. Some kids that are pretty decent bowlers. You can tell how they throw it. Now, granted, I don't know hardly any of these kids, but you're like, oh, that kid fundamentally sound. Or like, and then they're like, oh, how you bowling? I'm like, well, I just bowled 102. I'm like, okay. What happened? I missed a lot of spares. Okay. Well, why'd you do that? I don't know where my spare ball was going. Okay. It's those kind of things, and that's just part of learning and understanding. And that's the other thing too. When you have events like this, when you have patterns that are a little bit more demanding, you start to see that separation of those who work at it or have the resources to those. I mean, there's a couple of these kids here, they only got like 2 bowling balls. Right. But then you look back behind us, some of these parents are juggling. Some of these kids have got 9, 12. They got bowling balls everywhere. So I'm not saying that's an advantage or disadvantage. I'm just saying that it's one of those things that we're currently at different skill levels for a lot of these kids. It's not like they've all had the same curriculum and the same, middle school bowling to, to junior high to high school. Like, not every kid has that access to that. So, and you see it, when you get into these tougher. Let's face it, folks. This pattern's not easy, and I can tell you, I watched the league here in town the other night. There'll be plenty of those folks that have a hard time on this, and that's just truth be told. He's like over the push. Yeah, not quite. He knew it off his hand too.
Put the pattern on the screen real quick.
Oh, there we go.
You mentioned that that long strip there, and there it is.
Yeah.
It almost looks like a skyscraper.
That's it. And so these patterns are actually, I think Brandon told me that JJ at Kegel helped develop these, because they knew, obviously it's part of the deal with all the different bowling centers that they've helped and been tied to, and obviously they're part of the USBC for events and stuff like that, so those resources are always available. And so when you have the ability to reach out to Kegel and they kind of know you start talking about the generation of the lane surface and how much surface friction there is and the topography and all these things, and that's how these patterns are created accordingly. On top of knowing, hey, we want a short, medium, long, but then it's short, medium, long in this particular building. You know what I'm saying? So we could go, if we were going to the bowling center, just across town, 5 miles away. Like, hey, we need a short, medium, long. You would see 3 completely different patterns.
2 different buildings.
Yeah, 2 different buildings. You see totally different patterns than what we have here. So that's all right. A little bit there. You saw one of those things that was elbow out, kind of flipped at it, and you could see the ball roll. And that's that's the thing too that I've helped some of the parents and kids see, between last night and today. You're like, hey, did you throw a good shot? And they're like, well, I think so. Watch the color of the bowling ball. Watch how that rolls. And some of the parents want to tell them that, and they're like, oh, hey, I saw that. Because you can tell, did they miss a little bit? Did they get going forward a little bit? Because that's the advantage of having different colored bowling balls. You can see the patterns on the swirls of how they're shaping down the lane. And a lot of times people And this type of thing, they don't really pay attention to that, and they're like, oh, hey, yeah, that one rolled different. Okay. So why did it roll different? You know, and so it's kind of a self-help trying to figure out why did it do that. You know, it's causing it. You know, it's always cause. I'm always been a cause and effect guy. So there's something that triggered why you released it the way you did. So, but yeah, just the little things of trying to help, you know, just help everybody understand a little bit better. Because it's a, you know, the truth of the matter is, and you've been around it for a long time yourself, man. It's bowling is a never-ending learning process.
Absolutely.
And I don't care who you are. I mean, and if you ever meet anybody, folks out there, if you ever meet anyone that says they know everything about bowling, run and go the other way. Because, you know, I can tell you, I'm very fortunate. I've been in the business a long time. And I'm flat out honest. If I don't have the answers, I'm like, you know what? Let me find somebody who does. And then there's been times where I do that, and they'll reach out to somebody, and they go, ooh, I don't know. So then they'll reach out to somebody. You know, we have this network in our industry. And, you know, legit, there's some times where it might take 3 or 4 of us to kind of collectively piece together an answer, but eventually we're going to get there. But, you know, that's the cool thing about our sport, and, you know, as it evolves and things keep changing. You know, we keep learning too. I mean, that's the joy of it.
Big four-bagger, but a couple of good breaks here for Clark. And he had a good look earlier this morning, obviously on a much different pattern, short, but, you know, Andy and I were kind of previewing the long pattern, if you will. And
okay.
You think long pattern, you think, you know, high rev players in our current era, you think two-handed players might enjoy, theoretically speaking, longer conditions. And but we are into, this is game 4. You know, they're finishing game 4. Some around us are in game 5. So you anticipate players to be at this part of the lane. Some folks, depending on obviously ball speed, rev rate, etc.
Well, and you know, it's common, and I've helped quite a few folks, parents and kids, some of them that didn't know about the rule of 31, you know, from the Kegel deal. You know, just to give a general idea. Not, you know, and again, it's not the answer. It's not the exact
Full disclosure.
Full disclosure. But you know, the longer the pattern, the closer you need your break point to the 1-3 if you're right-handed, or 1-2 if you're left-handed, and helping people understand a little bit. So yeah, the fact of these kids are into, you know, 25, you know, in most cases, some of the two-handers, absolutely, that's where they're supposed to be, you know, by this, because there's enough of them, and you know, they're using bigger balls with a little bit of surface, and you use that to your advantage, because you know, when you put that pattern up there, there's that strip, so you have that, there's that hold there. As long as you get it going the right direction off your hand, and the right touch and motion, it plays to you. It's almost like an advantage type thing. But when you're too close to it and your misses left, or you don't get the tough break right there. The joys of bowling.
Mentioned Sebi struggling earlier on this pattern, or throughout this block, I should say. 149, 179, 207, and now, yeah, he wanted that one.
Yep.
But Spirit gets him to 230.
Yep.
And then just like that, he's at minus 35 for the block with 1 to go, and still could maybe get to even.
There you go. And what's the scoring pace? You got the scoring type thing there, right?
Yeah, I mean, Joss at the moment through 4, and not everyone is through 4, but Joss at the moment on this pattern plus 24 for 4.
Okay.
Now, JT Grothus, who struggled here this game, was 100 over for 3. The first 3 on the block, and then unfortunately gets to 138.
Yep.
Anthony Swanson was 96 over for 3. Rushdeen was 79 over for 3. Those 3 individuals that I just talked about were, you know, kind of pacing this field, if you will, through 3 games. And that's U15 boys just on the long pattern. This is not a total vantage point. From a totals perspective, Sebi is still in second overall.
Okay.
But I always find it, and I've never seen an SYC in person, but I have seen now 3 I guess, 2 events. This one and the Elite Youth Tour Battle Royale. I've seen that 3 times. I've seen this event now twice that have a similar structure to an SYC. And, you know, watching, you know, I think earlier I watched some young athletes just kind of, you could tell, like, everything sometimes kind of falls on one shot, or they live on every shot.
Yep.
And I feel like if you've bowled enough of these types of events where you understand how many games you do have, you know, one game isn't necessarily going to hurt you, certainly in a block, when you've got 15 games total.
Correct.
But it can feel like it in the moment that, you know, that block could just completely destroy you. And to some degree it could be true.
And in some cases it can be, but I think that's the big thing too. And again, it's going to come with experience and age, because one of the things, you know, I've had a couple parents, you know, come and talk to me, and I said one thing when you get to this type of stuff, because, you know, obviously, again, like we had mentioned, there's some kids that have not competed at this kind of event before. You explain to them that, you know, you're going to have pairs. There's going to be certain pairs that you're just not going to score on. And I know it's a hard pill to swallow, but, you know, you have to kind of lick your wounds and go, man, if I could just sneak out one, in some cases 160 or 170, you know, because we just saw JT shoot 138. I mean, a couple more spares, and he's in on one. You're going to have those rough spares, and whether it's something you get in a little funk or maybe it's just that pair, but he was 100 over for 3, catches that pair 138. Well, was it him? Was it the pair? I'm going to guess it's probably the pair for what he was doing prior to.
Right.
So now it's being able to disconnect from that, not dwell on it, go to the next pair and say, okay, I can get back to, you know, maybe shoot 220 or 230 this last game. But the kids, some of these kids, again, they just haven't experienced that. They don't have that mindset. And the same kind of, I mean, that's the same kind of thing. Not only SYC, like you mentioned, the SYCs or the elite youth, even when you get to junior gold, same concept. Because that environment, you're dealing with, you got all these little sprints, as we like to refer to them. You know, as opposed to, we're not old school when you had the 8-game blocks and you kind of grind them out. You know, you're in these 4 or 5-game blocks. It's a quick sprint, and it's over before you know it. Well, you have to be good at, okay, well, that's done over with because I have to go to the next pattern, which is going to play completely different. I'm going to be using a completely different ball, playing a completely different part of the lane. So, yeah, it's short-term memory is often advantageous in that environment, you know.
Quick shout-out to Kira Maxim here, who was bowling on 29 and 30. I believe Kira...
Little incident earlier.
Yeah, she was, you know, I think applying something to get herself prepared to bowl. And unfortunately, some of it got in her eye, and she had to go flush whatever
They
was
made
in the eye.
They made it to a clinic. Yeah, I was standing with Brandon and a couple other folks down there, and her mom came back. She's like, she wants to bowl. So can we get her in? There's like 3 frames left of this game or 4 frames. Like, well,
so they made it back to bowl.
So she just,
I'm assuming she took 0 or
the first couple games, yes. And so she basically missed the 3rd game. But yeah, she's like, I want to bowl. So here she is. But yeah, it was a deal of, I believe it was like a biofreeze or something like that. And you know, it happens. And but they, you know, her mom was saying, yeah, they got to the clinic and everybody, they already talked to like the toxins people, and they had the right stuff to flush it out. And it was, I mean, you even look at it. I mean, if you look at her eye, you can't even hardly tell there's anything there. So obviously, they did a great job right down the street. And they're like, okay, well, you're good. She's like, I want to go bowl. Like they said, and that was the thing too. They said she walked in, and they go, hey, those are bowling clothes. Like somebody there recognized, like, that's a bowling outfit. Okay. So
that's great.
But yeah, shout out to that, and but yeah, competitive nature right there. I want to go bowl.
Yeah,
you don't have to. No, I want to bowl.
No,
okay.
I really admire that.
Yep.
I talked to Andy about Kara a little bit earlier, and you know, when the PWBA relaunched in 2015, my first year on there was 2016, and I think they had been there. They had been to Lincoln already, maybe once.
Okay.
So, but you know, Lincoln was on the schedule. I feel like 5 out of 6. First 5 out of the 6 years either way.
Yeah.
But every time the PWBA was in Lincoln, so was Kira Maxim and her family.
Okay.
And they would bring her down. They live in Nebraska. I don't remember the city.
Exactly. Okay.
But, you know, I remember bowling the Pro-Am a couple times. And, you know, just
So
watching her progression.
You've seen the progression. And
Absolutely.
isn't that cool to watch when you see some of these kids? And then once they all of a sudden they kind of hit their peak and you're like, hey, I've known you for how long? And all next thing you know, it's like they're bowling on tour. And you're like,
that happens a lot at junior
Oh,
gold. Like junior
yeah.
gold's that pinnacle for a lot of us, right?
absolutely. That's the stepping stone.
Hello all, checking in and watching still here on Bowlstream TV. Game 5 now, I think officially across the board.
Yeah, I mean, we got a little. I think what's happened is making the flop. I'm trying to get from the corner down here, 31 through 36, and get down to 3 and 4. All the bowling balls on the tight concourse, and the kids get caught in some conversations or whatever along the way. And actually, and we didn't. Now we also have had. I know down there we had some scoring issues and we had some pin spot. I happened to be down there earlier. There was I can't remember who left a 2-8, and it took a while for them to respot it. Well, then they spotted a 2-9. He's like, I didn't leave that. So, okay, so we had to go back to the front desk, and we'll call back a 2-8. Well, okay, well, and then they look down and they go, ooh, that's a 2-9. Yeah, okay, let's get that respot. So, those kind of things kind of have caught up to us a little bit too. So,
Molly was still in the midst of a good game here, but she's left back-to-back 6 counts down there on 29 and 30. A spare would still get her to 230 with all 3 in the 10th. We'll get you to Gianna Brandolino and Trey Henriksmeyer in a little bit, along with Lucas Clark. By the way, we met Lucas's dad last night at dinner. This is his son, Lucas.
yes, I saw him. He was with I think Rush earlier.
Yeah.
And I said something like, are you ready for this? He's like, he just kind of looked at me, he just nodded his head. He's like, yep. I'm like, all right. It's the natural athlete right there. Oh, look at that little feed sneaky back there.
So, Shalom, give us an idea, when you are asked to kind of represent the brand
Yes, sir.
at an event like this.
Yep.
Does it come with specific, items that you are supposed to do, or is it, as the event's moving on, obviously you've done enough of these to understand, kind of where you're needed, if you will. Obviously, you're at the disposals of the tournament directors and
Absolutely.
how they would like to use.
And that was when I had first interactions, once we let Brandon know that I was going to come out. And I told him, I said, whatever you need me to do, I'll do. And it's one of those things we sponsor the event, but, in the case of, as opposed to differently like an SOIC where, which I've only worked a few of the first ones, it's one of those deals of we're there on site and we're the tournament officials,
Right.
So we're handing out bowling balls.
Right,
we're helping. We're running scores. We're doing this stuff. But in this case of, I just kind of been floating around and, helping out where I can. Whether it's communicating with, kids or parents or, they come up, like I said, helping with, hey, and one kid, and there was another one that a kid didn't even catch his, nobody in the pair caught that he had, he got 7-1. The score read 7 out. I go, hey, man. I said, you got one there. He goes, I did? I'm like, yeah. Everybody else kind of look around. I said, he got 7-1. I said, so let's fix the score. So that kind of thing. Just kind of being, like you said, at the disposal and helping wherever I can. Because, again, we're all in this together. We're here to, this is helping, we want to help grow the sport. What can we do to make a difference?
I think just listening to you discuss some of the conversations you've had with some parents, or the conversations may have been with the athletes, but obviously the parents are there listening and kind of taking it in, and then seeing what you're describing, so they can then be better, kind of helping their athlete,
Absolutely.
et cetera.
Yep. And I think that's the one thing too. Like I mentioned, not everybody has the. If they're, oh, hey, I work with so-and-so and so-and-so drove my balls and blah, 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 blah. And, then it's the, run and see somebody kind of in struggle, and they're like, hey, what's going on? You got this ball or that ball, what balls we got? And, and again, I've been around in this aspect of, dating back to my early days at the first junior golds back in the 2000s when it was much smaller. But I guess seeing how things unravel and giving seminars and coaching the kids, and we know how it is. Kids always, and I know I did this too, and I'm sure you did too. You're at your point when you're a kid, you're like, I know more than my parents. And when it comes to your bowling game, and they're like, I average way more than my parents.
Right.
And my thing always, I go, yeah, but you don't have eyes in the back of your head. Even though your mom or dad may only average 160 and you average 190 now, they can still watch you throw a shot and go, ooh, something was different there, because they've watched hundreds or thousands of shots. And so that was always one of the things that whenever time I did a seminar at Junior Gold, and still even now, there's times where if I, a clinic or talking to kids, I always tell them that. If you got a parent or, it could be your grandparent or whoever is there watching you, just accept the fact that that's an extra set of eyes. There's no judging. It's the fact of they can, if you feel like something was off a little bit or there was a cause and effect, they're watching it from behind. So they can actually help you, whether, again, if your average is 40, 50 pins higher than them, it doesn't matter. They're a resource. And I can't count how many times after I've expressed that or stated that and, shared that, and the parents come up and are like, thank you. I needed somebody to, I've been watching them throw every shot for the last 5 years. I can tell whenever this goes wrong or like, hey, that looks different than what you did, 2 shots ago. So, yeah, it's definitely a thing.
Also, we're rooting for our man Prey Lawson there. He did finish with 147 down there. Molly got to 206 after a really good start.
Mm-hmm.
And what else we got going on?
Pretty decent scoring pair, though. I mean,
I would say overall, yes.
Yeah, 2-0, 160, couple 160s, 199. And obviously this morning it was a little bit more of a grind, and some of the pairs, I know there was one pair I saw this morning, I think the high on the pair was like 130. And the kids were a little devastated. But like I said, that was the nature of that pattern, and now we're this pattern. And, you got to think tomorrow in the medium, we'll be a little bit more in this zone again as well, and you'll probably see some of the kids are going to score pretty well.
Yeah, and I think some will be a bit more comfortable, right? Because generally, talking about short and long, there are some defined areas to play. Or in some cases, depending on style, one may be a little bit advantageous than others. Medium patterns typically allow all styles to feel comfortable.
Yep, and traditionally, your medium pattern falls closer to what a typical house shot is, or what majority of these kids will see. Because again, there's some of these kids that, like I said, they've only got 1 or 2 bowling balls, and whatever youth leagues they bowl, the medium tomorrow is going to be closer to what they compete on the regular or practice on even. Oh, there we go.
Oh, nice kick of the 10 there, Gianna Brandolino. She led U18 girls this morning on short at plus 50. Let's see where she is currently. She has, I don't know how many games that is first. Let's see. G through 4 today, or I should say this afternoon, -4.
Okay.
But the day belonged, or this afternoon, I should say, belonged to Abigail Starkey.
Yep.
Plus 215 on the long pattern.
Okay.
She is taking the lead.
She,
U18 girls.
What's funny is I met her, I got a text from Gary Holzenberg, and we kind of connected. I'd never met them before. And I know they're from the Chicago area and whatnot. And so we're chatting, and it was early, and I think in the first game or something this afternoon. And she threw a shot, and her dad he's like, yeah, I guess, man, I got to be honest, whatever. He's like, oh, ball change. All right, cool. And so that ball change obviously worked out because she used that same ball, I think, the rest of the way out. So He's like, yep. He goes, I'm not scared to admit. He goes, she just does her thing now, and if she needs, if she has to ask me something, she'll ask me something. But other than that, I'm just the cheerleader dad. I'm like, hey, well, fair enough, dude. That's all cool.
It's a great family.
Yeah.
Great bowling from Abby. Henriksmeyer just out absolutely crushing this game. He shot 279, he said, game 4 on the short this morning, but wasn't very pleased overall with his block. But he wasn't pleased overall, but was happy to get to that number. And now he's got a chance to finish strong here. He and Gianna Brandolino.
I was going to say, and this is a prime example of what we're talking about with patterns and how to play them. Because Gianna, I mean, she's in fairly deep and playing that spot on the lane. I mean, she's 21, 22 at the arrows, feeding it to the spot. Like we talked about, the general break point, and she was in a spot. She had a little over under. Was it the last game or the game before? I think I saw a couple shots, and she's obviously moved more to left and got the right ball to do the right thing, to shape the right way. So, that's understanding equipment and understanding what the lane's doing. Oh, to the forward. There we go.
Lewis
throws are pretty good too. That was one when I walked through in practice last night. I watched. One of the things where you're kind of walking and kind of floating through, and like I stopped. And I'm like, whoa. So I just stood there and watched a few shots. I'm like, again, just talk about just natural ability. Good sound, fundamental game, gets it off his hand really good, like with no effort.
Yeah, it's a lot of textbook stuff.
Oh,
just like Trey Henriksmeyer here.
Looking good. I think he liked it. Maybe.
He was. We were talking about his recent experience. Bowled the PBA LBC Clash.
Okay.
It just aired on October 1st.
Gotcha. All right.
On FS1, Trey took home the big prize, $25K LBC this year.
Nice.
25 in that smart account.
That is awesome right there. Yeah, I didn't catch all those shows. I was I've been doing most of the summer traveling and here, there, everywhere, and I was like, "Hey, did you see this?" I'm like, "Yeah, I don't know where I was at that point in time, but yeah, I wasn't near a TV." Oh.
Okay, don't forget, folks, tomorrow morning we will begin competition 1 hour earlier.
Yes, sir.
8 a.m. Central, 9 a.m. Eastern Time. 5 games on the medium pattern. And then we'll have Stepladder finals shortly after that. And then
okay, so there's I wasn't aware of that.
Yes.
So there's a Stepladder after.
Yes, there are.
Cool.
There will be 4.
Okay.
2 in each division,
All
boys
right.
and girls.
Those are really good. Just to kind of critique that right there, that was one of those deals of, honestly, I think Gianna just kind of shut it short a little bit there, and that's where, she didn't quite get the shape that she had in the previous 2 shots. But again, in the right part of the lane, doing the right thing, and, you'll take those 9 counts as opposed to a 5 count design in some capacity.
I remember Trey bowling this event last year too. I just can't remember his finish.
Okay.
We were talking earlier. I know he's won a couple of recent events, some JSPTs.
Okay.
And so coming in feeling pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Slim, what keeps you? I won't use the word motivated because I think you plenty motivated, right? But you've been in this business now. What is it, 20, 23?
I've been in the pro shop. Well, I started in the pro shop business when I was 16, so I'm at, coming up on 31 years since I started drilling bowling balls. I got to tell you, and even though I don't really bowl much anymore, personally, maybe once or twice a year I put shoes on and throw. Normally now I'm to the extravaganza, the fundraiser for the Hall of Fame, the museum and International Museum and Hall of Fame down in Texas, which is helping maintain the history of our sport.
Right.
For me, it's always been, and that's what I had told this I had a conversation earlier on the concourse with one of the dads. It's a deal of, for me, early on, bowling wise, I was above average, but not. I'm like, I'm not going to make a career out of this. But the joy and passion for me, when you help someone succeed, or, and I can remember when I was a kid and learn how to drill, and you drill a ball for a little kid, like a 6 or 7 year old, and they throw their first strike, or the other times would be folks come in, hey, I need a new bowling ball. You get them dialed in, you get the right ball, the right layout, and they go out and they bowl their first 200 game, or they bowl their first 600 series. Those moments are what I've always cherished. And then, and obviously that all just kind of translated, because even then I was already kind of starting to help some regional players and people in the area that, because of my ball drilling abilities, but then also became the coaching thing kind of just came natural. And, then when I got to the tour level and drilling balls on the ladies tour and learning even more so in the tour up thing and still being able to help, and it's like, okay. And again, I think the challenging part, the enjoyment is because it's not just the bowling balls. I mean, there's so many variables you got to factor into it, from the bowling lane and the oil and the pattern, but the bowling balls. But then it's the physical game, and then it's the mental game. And, and when I tell people, like, well, how do you do this or how do you do that? I'm like, okay, well, the way I talked, and I always use the example of, well, the way I talked to Belmo was different than the way I talked to Pete Weber, which is different than the way I talked to Norm Duke, which is different than the way I talked to Liz Johnson, which is different than the way I talked to Kelly Kulik, because everybody's a unique person. And so it's always been the passion of that aspect, but then also the challenge of helping someone succeed. It's a never-ending puzzle, man, and that's what I think that's the challenge for me, and I think that's the drive and the, hey, because again, it's a never-ending deal. But nobody averages 300, nobody averages 900, so how do you help somebody get to their next level or reach their maximum potential? And it's always fun. I mean, and whether it's a little tidbit here or there, and it's amazing sometimes where it could be the smallest thing, and it's like somebody turns around and look at you and they're like, how did you do that?
Right. Like,
I've worked with so-and-so and so-and-so and so-and-so, but I'm like, sometimes it's just the communication, being able to communicate on that level to where that particular player understands it. Like I said, I mean, the other part of it too is I've worked with people from little kids all the way. The oldest person I've ever coached was 100 years old in Japan. I had a lady who I gave a lesson to. This has already been maybe a decade ago. And, she's like, guess how old I am? And she's like, I just turned 100. And I'm like, wait, what?
Wow.
And, she's using a 10-pound ball and could hardly get down the lane. But again, she wanted to get better still at that age. So covered the gamut of ages, and then folks with, I've worked with, blind people. I've worked with people in wheelchairs. I've worked people with prosthetics. I mean, all different aspects. There's all these different things, but we all have one goal in mind. We want to bowl and have fun and do good at it. So how do we keep, going forward in that regard? So we'll see if Trey gets back on it. That was a pretty good shot right there. And again, he's in the right zone, and he can miss it a little bit. He gets his arm in the right spot to where he can miss it a little bit left, as long as he gets through it.
Right.
Because obviously the shot where he missed left and didn't have his hand in the right spot, that was a 6-3. So.
There's a couple frames left throughout the building, but in our general vicinity, this is going to do it. Here in a frame or so, but a couple pairs finishing up. A great day of youth bowling.
Absolutely, and this is, you know, that's it's cool to watch the competitive aspect and the challenge aspect, and there's a reason why these kids are here, because they want to compete and they want to get better. So it looks like we still got some pretty decent games going, you know, on the pairs around us.
Yeah, even in this last game too, I think. You know, Sebi, these last two games, I mean, he came over here and shot 230.
Yep.
And he moved pairs and
Pacing at least that, and then over there down 19 and 20. Let's see. Was it Evan there? Just went 8 spare and 9 spare, but he's looking at 230, 240. There you go. That's a good note to walk off on. Finally, I'm done. That is it, my man. There we go. Yeah, I think you can see the frustration based on that 9th frame. And again, that's competitive nature. It's, you know, it's what, and even some of the kids that, you know, and again, we were all at that age once, and you get maybe a little overexcited. But you got to be able to cut, you know, short-term memory, cut it loose, and just like, oh yeah, okay, let's throw some good shots here. Oh, and she gets a little bump. Little 219 there with a hole and a 9th. I mean, and again, it happens.
again, great year for Gianna. Junior Team USA.
Push. Look at that.
Nice there for Zach. We're talking about Junior Gold, G1 U18 Girls Championship.
All right. Man means business right there.
I tell you, I know Trey and Landon are pretty good friends.
Okay.
Of course, Landon and Griffin Jordan are twins.
Okay.
And I just have to imagine that, you know, they got another, I think, couple years left. But, you know, I know that college thing is going to be knocking on their door pretty soon.
Mm-hmm.
And, again, if I'm a coach, I obviously looking at all of them. And
right.
You're wondering,
absolutely.
You're wondering if you can get all of them to your school.
Well, and you know what's crazy, and we talked about this a little bit last night. It changes in bowling too, because now in college, NIL is a thing.
That's right.
And so some programs are, we're already kind of starting to see it a little bit. The programs that have more funding, or they would negotiate whatever kind of deals with the local sponsors, any kind of, I mean, because again, just because it's bowling doesn't mean it's not part of the
right.
college world. And yeah, it's changing everything. So
for the U18 boys, as we head to the end, Trey, that will get him to, shoot, what did he get to? Did he shoot 2-0? He had more than that, didn't he? Nonetheless, he was 55 over through 4. So he's going to be plus for the block. And so are a lot of other individuals in U18 boys. That one's going to come down to the 5th and final, or 15th, I should say, and final game tomorrow. U18 boys, who's going to make that cut. It's going to be very, very close. Landon's going to be there. Trey's going to be around it. Griffin will be around it. But Josh Sachs and Carson Reed have been in the lead for the majority of the day on the top 2 positions. So that one's going to be a fun one to kind of keep an eye on tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
U18 girls with Abby's great day. Again, she has taken over the overall lead in U18 girls. Gianna Brandolino is going to be second, and then there'll be a race for the final 2 spots in U18 girls, I believe, tomorrow. In U15 boys, Anthony Swanson and Rushteen have been excellent throughout. Joss has been hanging around, and I feel like, you know, if you let Joss hang around long enough, he's on strike at some point, and that could be tomorrow on that medium pattern.
Mm-hmm.
A plus 150, 200 type block might await him. Sebi Vetter, see, did Sebi finish well? He did.
236.
So
down there.
back-to-back 230 games for Sebi to finish up.
Yep.
And that's going to move him to minus 13 for the overall total. So another good race in U15 boys, and then U15 girls. Sophia DeLucia, Savannah Portillo, Skylar Petts all in the mix. With 5 games on the medium pattern left to go tomorrow. And make sure you join us again 1 hour earlier in the morning, 8 a.m. Central, 9 a.m. Eastern Time, right here on Bullstream TV as we continue the coverage of the Midwest Youth Main Event Round 2 here from Cadillac XBC in Waterloo, Iowa. Chris Schlim, appreciate you sharing some knowledge and some wisdom.
Thanks for having me, man.
And I look forward to having you again tomorrow. I don't know what your responsibilities will be for the step ladders, but
whatever you need. I was told, I think the only thing I get to do is, because I probably look like one, I get to hand out the title belts.
Okay.
Yeah, because I know the kids, I guess, were excited last year. And Brandon's like, he goes, dude, we'll have you pass out the belts. And I'm like, oh, I said, do I get to wrestle the kids for the strap? I said, I could be the people's champ. And he started laughing. He's like, no. He goes, we'll just hand it to him. I go, okay, I can do that too.
Great. That's great. Well,
good stuff.
I tell you, I'd love to have you if you're available.
Absolutely.
For the finals, so we'll talk about that tomorrow.
Yes, sir.
Until then, folks, you guys be safe, be well. Bowlmetrics.com is the place to check all of the scores once they are indeed updated. We've got 1 pair left to finish up, and then you will see exactly where everyone will stand through 10 games today. Medium pattern is tomorrow. Until then, we will see you on the other side. This has been a presentation. Oh, before we do that, big thanks to the YBSF, Brandon, Angie, Matthew, Josh, Ann couldn't be here this weekend. Kelly, everyone involved with this event. Of course, the sponsors, ADS Recycling, H5G, Roto Grip, the Greater Cedar Valley USBC, Hampton Inn, the other place, and everyone here, of course, at Cadillac XBC. Rich and Kathy Amy, the proprietors, and, of course, Mick Hackbarth, the general manager. For all of the guests today, Brandon Runk, assistant coach at Wartburg College, and the Roto Grip brand manager, the one and only Chris Schlemmer. My name is Emil Williams Jr. We will see you in the morning, bright and early, 8 a.m. Central, 9 a.m. Eastern Time. This has been the presentation of the Midwest Youth Main Event, Round 2, the long pattern. You watched it only right here on Bullstream TV. Good night.